Good evening, folks. Welcome back. Oh, looked like my sound wasn't working there. I don't know if that started. Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. And I hope your week has started off very well indeed. How is everybody? What are you up to? Let me know in the chat tonight who's sitting doing a bit of painting, who's just sitting chilling, who's at work still, who's just woke up, who's just about to go to bed. Let me know what you're up to this evening, and let me know as well. Let me know what you've been up to over the weekend. Have you been playing any games this weekend? Have you been doing a bit of retail therapy, buying some new minis or anything like that? Have you been 3D printing? Have you been trying out some board games? Let me know what you've been up to hobby-wise. So let's see who we've got in the chat tonight. We had Super Pumpkin Man was in nice and early saying good morning to everybody. Blizzards is saying woohoo. New stream smell. Nice to see you in, mate. Kodos, good evening to you as well. Clyde Dashing, nice to see you in, sir. Type 40 TARDIS, hello, hello. Haxan's in as well. Good evening, Haxan. J-Bot says, hopes everyone's doing well. I hope you are too, my friend. Cleo's in saying, howdy, friends. John Estel, good evening to you, mate. He said he's settling down with some nice ancient Egyptians to paint and a 12-year-old drink. I hope that's a whiskey or something, mate, and not just like a cup of coffee that you've kind of left go mouldy in the corner of the hobby room or something. Big Dave, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Spoony, good evening. How's things? Colin Mack says, evening, buddy. Good evening, Colin Mack. Jeff Higdon, nice to see you too, mate. He said, it's been a hot minute since I've been able to do a live stream. Well, nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you. Yoakum, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? He says, I hope everyone's well. He's creating a texture board for dry brushing and maybe paint some squig hoppers tonight. Squig hoppers? This sounds like something new that you're painting, mate. Nice to see. Classy, there he is. That's because he said, teacher is 10 seconds late. We can go home. You know I'm never late, mate. Wayne Hayward, good evening to you as well. He says, judging by the floor of my hobby room, I love a starter set. Yes, for those that don't know, we are talking about starter sets tonight. And there's a couple of things that kind of prompted the conversation for me tonight. One is, obviously, we've got a new edition of Warhammer 40,000 out. And as always, after that initial kind of the glamour box that GW always launches a new edition with, we start to see the starter sets coming out. And they have been really, they either released this weekend or they went up for pre-order this weekend, might be the case. And I was kind of just I was looking at them out of interest and comparing them to other starter sets that we've seen recently, and obviously Mantic Games as well are kind of having a bit of an update to Firefight, and they've released a new starter set for Firefight as well, alongside the existing starter set. And I was starting to think about the price of starter sets, and are starter sets starting to become too expensive? Are they the best ways to get into games still? Because they always used to be, because you'd buy a starter set because it was a nice kind of dip your toe in, see what you feel about the game kind of thing. Are they still the best way to get into a game? And so I wanted to just kind of talk about starter sets in general, get your thoughts on them, let you know my thoughts. Let's look at some starter sets together and see whether we think they're good value, and also talk about what makes a good starter set. Like, because there are lots of different, like we have starter sets that kind of are a taster, and then we have starter sets that are everything you need for two people to play with terrain and mats and everything in. There's a vast range of starter sets. It's not just kind of like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So yes, that is the chat for tonight. Zingbo, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Just saying, yeah, it's been a while since you caught a live show. VJ, good morning to you, matey. How are you doing? I just jumped straight on my screen there. Let's have a little look. Super Pumpkin Man says, I decided to change things up and make a new shirt today. Just finished the template and going to spray paint it this afternoon. Very nice, mate. Is that something new, or do you often make your own clothing? Sounds pretty cool. Spoonie's weathering a Sons of Horus Rhino for that sweet Grimdark. That sweet, sweet Grimdark. Gav, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Mordecai said he's basing some Night Stalkers this evening. I started building some Night Stalkers today, actually. I've got the first part of my Kings of War minis there. I'm just looking over to them. I've got some Reapers there being built up. You get like 10 to a troop, I think it is, on I think it's like 100 by 40 mil base, and they seem quite big to be fitting on that base. I need to double check, make sure I've got my bases right. let's have a little look here. John Shepherd, good evening to you, mate. How are you? Derek Hodge, good evening, sir. How are you? We've got Michael as well saying hello all. Hello, mate. We've got Mike B saying good afternoon. He's working and finishing an assembly of the Leviathan set. I was randomly looking at the Leviathan set this week, and we'll come on to that when I start talking about starter boxes and things like that as well. Clive saying I have all the sets. Tony Owl say hello, my lovelies. Hello to you as well, mate. I hope you're doing well. Mark Watson said he's finished painting up some retained for Iron Age just in time for a new Eldfall Chronicles box to arrive tomorrow. You'll not be sorry, mate, with your Eldfall Chronicles box. I've talked about this before. It was the one I did the Kickstarter thing about, but I've got the skirmish game as well, and that is another kind of, it's a starter box, but it's also like a buy everything box. So the core box, if you like, comes with 4 armies in it, like 4 different factions, plus terrain, plus a mat to play on, and it might not be the cheapest of starter boxes. But it's almost like it's not just a starter box. It's he's a bit of everything box kind of thing. So yeah, it's different levels of stuff. Ken Tryu, good evening to you. Big Dave says he's still at work at the moment. I did a demo game of Kings of War with my friend on Wednesday, and he loved it. He's going in hard with Northern Alliance and a game of Dead Zone today. Lots of fun. Nice to hear you getting plenty of games in, my friend. Super Pokemon saying, speaking of 40k, I nearly lost my freaking mind over the new Tyranids. I've always kind of liked Tyranids from like a perspective of, I'm a big fan of like the Star Wars Starship Troopers films, or film I should say. let's not say they're all good. And so I like that kind of aesthetic, but the thought of painting an army of them has always made me just go, oh, I don't think it's really my kind of cup of tea. But painting a combat patrol, I could see that. I could see that. Deep Red, hailing well met to you as well, old son. John Estel says, I know what doesn't make a good starter set for VJ. Humans. He's never mentioned that before. I don't know what you mean. Warren Jones, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing, sir? Super Pumpkin Man saying, in the words of Philip J. Fry, shut up and take my money. Tony saying, I have a very different angle and view on starter sets, but my angle is quite unique, so it's probably not relevant to this conversation. It's absolutely relevant, mate, because I don't think your sort of viewpoint is unique at all. I don't think you're the only person in the world who has that viewpoint. I think we talk about starter sets from a gaming perspective, but I think there are a lot of people who buy them to just paint. There are a lot that I would suggest there are a lot more people who buy starter sets and never ever play their game than buy a starter set and play it. So I wouldn't think at all, mate, that your opinion is any less valid than anybody else's. We've all got different parts of this hobby that we like and enjoy, and I don't think you're alone in what you like doing, mate. Kodos is saying a good set comes with 2 armies that work for the game in composition and size with everything you need to play. If you need to buy other books or models only for intro scenario, it's not good. Well, we'll get onto that, mate, because I kind of agree with you and I kind of disagree with you as well, because I think there's 2 sides to it. Is a starter set a full-on sort of game for 2 people, or is a starter set something to get you started? That's I guess that's the question I want to ask later on, really. Suli's Emporium, what a cool name, says, hey everyone, sat listening tonight whilst working on my Tyranid army so I can beat my partner Space Marines. Well, I tell you what, I think there's going to be a lot of people in that same boat with those Tyranids versus Space Marines at the minute. I think GW have done a fantastic job of their marketing around 10th edition, and I think it's kind of, I mean, not that it needed any help along kind of thing, but I think that they're doing a really good job at the moment of just kind of continuing to drip feed the new units and keep the buzz alive as well, because when a new edition comes out or a new game comes out, it's very easy to get that kind of, that ramp up the hill of like fever pitch, excitement, hype level, and then it releases and then it's like, all right, okay, we've all got them now, right? It's going to take us ages to get them on a table. We've kind of forgotten about it. And some companies move on from that as well very quickly, because it's almost like, well, we've done our work now, it's over to you. Like, over to you, the community. Like, you pick up the banner and run with that now. But GW are doing a good job of their stuff around that. Kodos is saying most starter sets miss the model tools and paints or need additional rules to play the main game. I guess, and this is something that we'll come on to, who are starter sets aimed at? Because I think that's a core question that we need to ask, because I don't think all starter sets are not created equal, and all companies do not target the same people, or do not target the same, not even the demographic really. They don't even target the same audience, I think is the word I was looking for. VJ says he saw the accountant yesterday. Good news. So I have some cash for a little splurge coming my way. It's never a bad thing, mate. Is it better than being the other way around? Thumbnails, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Somebody saying good evening as well. He's building some battle systems, buildings, and scatter terrain for an upcoming adventure and battles. I've plenty of starter sets to finish, but first things first. I like the battle system stuff, but I always find that they're not intuitive to build, kind of thing. You have to follow the instructions, or certainly the newer like the fantasy buildings, because the old sci-fi stuff is very much modular and you just kind of build it how you like, but the newer stuff is just terrain that's made of card, and you kind of, it's not, I wouldn't say it was interchangeable the way the old stuff is. Type 40 Tardis is saying he's still waiting to hear if his bid for the house is accepted. It's always a nervy time, that, mate, isn't it? Cleo saying, I've been one moment please while I shut the door and pull the window shades. Painting Kingdom Death minis to represent the friends who go to our annual Cabin in the Woods for diorama house gift. The Cabin in the Woods bit scares us a little bit, mate. It sounds like it would be cool, but all I can think of is like monsters coming up through the floorboards and people taking bets on who's going to die first. Yeah, but you're saying probably all get eaten by a mortgage and a family trip to Japan that we've got booked for March. Yeah, that'll do it as well, mate, to be fair. Spend it while you've got it, that's what I say. Cleo's in the one with clothes on. It could be a very different Cabin in the Woods weekend away, mate, if there was all the naked ones. Kodos is saying the Song of Ice and Fire is pretty good, but you get everything and the models don't need to be built. X-Wing as well. Mantic comes close, but should add the hobby tools and paint set as a bundle. Oh, should Anthem as a bundle. I think I disagree with you, mate. But we'll come on to that when we get into the meat and bones of the conversation. Let's have a little look here. John Ashley Smith, good evening. It's been a while since I caught a live stream. I'm usually cooking dinner around this time. Well, welcome. Nice to see you here. Major Tom, good evening, Ed. He's saying he's playing Vampire, so I'll catch up tomorrow. Have fun. I don't think I know what Vampire is, mate. Super Pumpkin Man saying, yeah, whenever I can't find a certain kind of shirt, I just go and buy a blank one and make my own design. I like that, mate. Very resourceful. Vigi says, Andy playing devil's advocate for both sides. Never. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my opinions and I will gladly share my opinions. But when I'm saying like kind of and see both sides or something, like I do agree with the context that a starter set should be kind of like, you know, if like it should have everything in you need. But then it depends upon what you call need. Is everything you need 2 full armies, or is it everything you need to play a small scale version of it to be a bit of a taster and a bit of a tryout to see if it's something that you will use as a starter to then sort of springboard from? That's what I mean. There's 2 sides to it. John says, I reckon by now I've split 5 or 6 Kings of War starters as it's a cheap way to bulk out armies and have rulebook to entice new players with. You know what, mate? I mean, that's a very valid point. And, let me just drop down a little bit there. It's a really valid point, actually, and I think Mantic do a good job with those starter sets. The problem is, from a business perspective, and we're looking at it from a company side of things, it probably doesn't make sense to continue to have them for too long. Like, whenever Mantic have brought a new one out, they've kept the old one in stock as well. So that, not like, and I'm not suggesting that this is the best thing for the consumer, but from a business perspective, it's generally the cheapest way to bulk your army out rather than kind of just buying the units you want. So this is why Games Workshop keep doing these kind of, you know, these 2 armies in a box, like around a thematic storyline type thing, and then they disappear, and then a new one comes out, because they end up being a cheap way to kind of, for people to bulk out armies and stuff like that. So from a business perspective, it's probably not the greatest idea. From a certainly from a consumer perspective, it's great to have those options. Cleo says a starter set ought to be ready for 2 people to at least play, yeah, or you might never get going. Yeah, I would agree with that, mate. I mean, they certainly should. That's the whole point. You want to be able to play the game. There's no point a starter set having like 1 model each or something like that, or even start 1-player starter sets is something that we'll talk about as well, because sometimes starter sets only cater for 1 person. John says, last week you mentioned Dettol to remove paint, and I'd tried 99.9% alcohol, meths and elbow grease. Well, all sorted. Some of the figures were coloured plastics and not painted. Well, that'll be why then, mate. That'll be why. Warren said, I like the new Firefight set coming out from Mantic. Certainly gives you enough to get a great start. Yeah, they do. I mean, by the same stretch, the prices are starting to creep up as well. So that's to be expected. So this is what I mean about the balance of stuff as well. Like it's not, starter sets are not necessarily as cheap. I mean, I can see my Star Wars Shatterpoint, the boxes on the floor down there as well. So like, there's a prime example of something that you get a lot of stuff in that box, but you pay for it as well, kind of thing. Thumbnails is saying that I've been buying, printing, painting minis since at least 2013 and have played very, very few games. 2,000 plus minis between me and my son, but probably 6 games. Trying to fix that this year. I think a lot of people are in that situation, mate. I think a lot of people in our hobby would tell you they play games when in reality they're hobbyists, and there's nothing wrong with that, nothing at all. But they certainly spend more. They spend their time and their effort on painting and building and collecting even, rather than actually playing the games. I think the portion of people that play regularly, and I would say regularly as in even once a month, the portion of people that play regularly are a lot smaller than you'd think. Michael saying Battletech's a great starter. You can play your first game for $25, and this is the price for 2 players. Yeah, that definitely is a good price, mate. Superpunk Man saying, weirdly enough, I think the new redesigned Tyranid Biovore is adorable looking. I don't think I would ever consider Tyranid as adorable. Let's have a little look here. Type 40 Taurus says that and saving up for Traded Galaxy next Kickstarter. Beat them up. I saw that kind of sort of teased somewhere. I don't think it's for me. It looks a little bit like. Now, I'm not going to judge. I don't know enough about it. I've got my first impressions, but it's not an opinion, I would say. Gav says, I've always thought that companies miss a trick when it comes to starter sets. Most game systems have multiple armies, but only ever release a starter set with 2. Why don't they have multiple sets with different armies? I think it depends on the game. So, for example, if you take Warhammer 40,000, the biggest game that's out there, you could say that the Combat Patrol boxes are starter sets. Now, people might get sort of like, or they're not the most competitive models, or these models never see the table kind of thing. That's a matter of opinion. If you're mega competitive, I don't necessarily think those starter sets are kind of aimed at you. But they have a starter set, or certainly a 1-player starter set, for each faction. When it comes to sort of starter sets, I mean, the problem is the amount of people that would buy a 2-player starter set, or a portion of your audience, and then if you then split them down into sort of 10 different starter sets to cover 20 different armies, you'll always get the people that go, oh well, I wanted the rats out of this box, and I wanted the Northern Alliance out of that box or something, if it was Kings of War, or if it was sort of Warhammer, oh I like the box with Space Marines in, but I don't want the kind of the Tyranids in the other half or whatever. And so what happens is you end up just spreading it out so thin, you don't please anybody really. The idea with starter sets are they're aimed at generally people wanting to get into the game for the first time, because they contain the rule book and the dice and the tokens and a section or a selection of models. And maybe the army choice is less important sometimes, or maybe it's like you're just showing off some new models. The other side of it is starter boxes are a great way to get your money back from sort of new plastic tooling. So for example, let's take the new Warhammer 40,000 starter box. for Space Marines and Tyranids. There's brand new models in there. How can you guarantee that you will sell enough of those models to recoup the cost of tooling and sculpting and creating those new models? Let's put them in a starter box, and everybody buys that new starter box because it's where you get the rules and all of that kind of malarkey. So there's reasons why companies do starter boxes, and there's reasons why companies don't do multiple starter boxes, because generally they're there to kind of to repay tooling costs. It's one of the reasons Games Workshop put a lot of terrain inside things like Kill Team and Warcry and Necromunda, is because it's a way to create this new terrain, which is obviously very expensive, and it's not the kind of thing they would sell lots of generally. You might think, oh, they'll sell loads of that stuff, but you'd be surprised they don't sell massive amounts of it. So it's one way to get it sculpted, it's one way to get it paid for, it's a way to increase the ticket price on the box. So instead of paying sort of £80 for a starter box, you're paying £125 because it comes with some terrain, and it's getting terrain into people's hands, because then all of a sudden, if they've got terrain and they've got models, they're probably more likely to play the game. If you get a starter box and it's got no terrain in it, then that becomes a stumbling block, because you then go, well, I've got to buy some terrain now, and like you never get round to it kind of thing. So for example, we're talking about Shatterpoint earlier on. I guess tonight's topic's just going to be very kind of loose and through the whole stream. I'm not going to sort of have a drop dead where we talk about it. We talked about Shatterpoint before. It comes with terrain, and it comes with quite a bit of terrain in it, and the price of the box isn't that cheap. But you get a lot of terrain, and you get enough models to play for two people, two full-size kind of armies, if you like, or factions. And the terrain is very important in that game. I would liken it to Dead Zone by Mantic, where the terrain is very, very important in the game. If you don't have the right terrain, you will play a very different version of that game. Same with Shatterpoint as well. You need some verticality, same as Dead Zone. You need some kind of height in your terrain, and I think by not including it, people don't get to see the game at its best or how it was designed. So if you bought Shatterpoint and you didn't have any terrain for it, you'd play it on a very flat surface with a few bits of blocking terrain in the middle, and the fact that your models are jumping around and climbing up and down and line of sight and all that kind of stuff gets lost completely. And exactly the same with Dead Zone as well. You play Dead Zone on a 2 foot, is it? Yeah, there's a 2 foot by 2 foot sort of plane surface. But because you have a lot of height, it really extends the size of the battlefield. If you played it on a really flat surface, and I would suggest actually that there's probably not enough terrain in the starter set for Dead Zone to really show it off to its best. It gives you a real flavour of it, and I think if you like the basics, you'll want to expand it. But I would suggest that there's still not enough terrain in there to play a proper game. Let's have a little look here as well. Haxan saying, first Warcry starter set was brilliant. Tons of terrain and minis. Games Workshop still have nightmares about how much they gave us and have sold Warcry fans short ever since. There was a lot in the first one. And to be fair, I think even the first Kill Team sets were very, very similar. You got a lot of terrain in those sets. And I think they have dialed it back over time. But every now and again, mind, they do come around. I think it's almost when they reboot. So when the Warcry sort of version 2 starter set come out, there's quite a lot of terrain in that as well, to be fair. It's the same when you think about the Gallo Dark Kill Team sets, like those walls and stuff that came in there to make those kind of Space Hulk kind of games. There was a lot of terrain in that as well. VG saying, new Firefight starter looks great. Rats versus Dwarfs. Classic matchup for the two factions I already collect. Yeah, that always helps when you collect those ones anyway, mate. The only thing I would say is, when you've got a new starter set, it's a good opportunity to release some new models, and I guess they haven't really taken the opportunity to do that. The new Firefight is more about bringing in kind of sort of armoured tanks and vehicles and stuff. And I think that's probably why they've chosen those two factions, because they're two factions where they already make the vehicles themselves for them. Type 40 TARDIS is saying the Carnivale and Drop Zone Commander starter sets are amazing value for money. Yeah, I put the Carnivale one in the thumbnail tonight. It is one of the starter sets that does come with everything you need, but is not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. But there again, it's a game where you don't have a lot of models as well. But it is a game that does need terrain, and the way they've gotten around it is very much like how Corvus Belli do theirs. They've included like card terrain. Now the quality of the Corvus Belli terrain for Infinity is way superior to the quality of the card terrain that you get with Carnivale, but at least it allows you to get the feel for the game, because Carnivale it's a very narrative game. It's a story driven game. It's a game where you want to feel the setting of like being set in kind of in Venice. And I think if you bought a starter set that didn't have any terrain in it and you end up using, I'll just use this 40k terrain or something, I think like the game gets lost a little bit on that. Like I think you've got to buy into the setting and kind of go with it. So I think it's really important they included it, and I think the game is far superior for that as well. John Ashley Smith saying the best ever starter set I ever bought is a toss up between 2nd edition 40k box, way before my time, mate, or the Battlefield Gothic box, way before my time, mate. Though the recent Catalyst box for BattleTech, is pretty wicked. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with BattleTech stuff, I'll be honest. Yeah, Super Punkerman saying first Warcry box was great. Yeah, I still use that terrain for many, many different things now, to be fair. Tony saying, in that case, I'll say that as a painter hobbyist, first thing to do is write off the books and tokens in value. You say write them off. I'll come back to the rest of your comment there. You say write them off, but it's a really good way to, and I know you don't like to sell a lot of stuff on eBay, Tony, but if you buy, let's take the new 40k one as the Leviathan box. If you were to take that box, keep the minis, sell the rule book, is there anything else in there of any kind of any value, anything like that? I'm not really sure stuff, but like card wise, like there's what they called, like the battle cards, the data scroll type things, wherever they call them. I don't know what data slates are they maybe it's called in 40k, I don't know. But if you sell off the rulebook, for example, I mean the rulebook's worth a few quid. Even if you sell that for say £30 or something like that, it's a nice little chunk back, because especially when that first comes out, you can't buy the rulebook at the same time. They don't always come out at the same time, and also those rule books tend to be a bit like limited edition a little bit as well. So you can always sell some of that stuff off. But anyway, he's saying first thing is write off the books and the tokens, concentrate on the minis only. If all the minis are new and you really want them to paint them all or half, might be worth it. Yeah, I mean even selling off half the minis, selling off the book, you can get yourself a lot of minis for quite a good price. Like I can't remember how much that starter set was, that Leviathan. I think it was like, was it 150 maybe? Like if you're selling off like half the models for like, let's say £70 or something like that, you're selling off the rule book for 30 quid. All of a sudden you've got a big chunk of models for £50. That's not too bad, is it? VJ's talking about the house there. Cleo saying it's a pretty scary cabin in the woods, not gonna lie. Only one shower for 8 people. That'll definitely be one of the scary parts, mate. Mike saying his favourite starter sets were BattleTech and Star Wars Legion. I've got both of the Star Wars Legion starter sets, and let's just say the models for Star Wars Legion got a lot better over time, and I think the original one with Vader and Luke in, and the Stormtroopers, they're nice, don't get me wrong, but the model quality could have been a little bit better, and I think that range of models got better over time, to be fair. Big Dave says Vampires and RPG, I think. There you go, that'll be why I don't really know about it, mate. Kodos is saying Mantic has the Army Painter starter set in the shop, coming with tools, paint or brush, but it's kind of hidden and should be listed together with other getting started. I think that's more to do with the way they lay their kind of their web store out, because I think you have to look in for the hobby supplies thing to see that. John saying the epic 40k box from '98 was pretty awesome too. Before my time. It took me nearly 15 years to build and paint everything that came in the box, but it's done. Just in time for a new edition, mate, eh? And Cleo saying, yeah, I think it should be a small taste and springboard, like getting a mini dungeon in a D&D starter set instead of, I don't know, a full campaign. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when we're talking about starter sets, I like I was saying before about how I think sometimes they're getting expensive, and I'll use Star Wars Shatterpoint as an example. There was a lot of people felt that Star Wars Shatterpoint was just a little bit too rich for their blood. It was a bit expensive, and it was a lot of money to spend on a brand new game that they don't know much about. And I don't disagree with that. I have my own opinions based upon my experience with Atomic Mass Games and with Marvel Crisis Protocol and the quality of the minis and the amount of terrain that you get in the box. And whilst it's not cheap, I still thought it was good value, and I stand by that. But I do think, as I said before, some games need to give you everything to allow you to play the game as intended, and some games are sort of can stand alone on a slimmed down or a scaled down version of what you need to get a taste for the game, to be able to allow you to kind of make the choice to grow from there. And I think one of the differences is you take a game like Shatterpoint, where you're only playing with 8 models per side. Possibly 10. No, 8. Was it 8 or 10? Let's think. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, like 8 models a side, roughly. You've got your different units, and some of them are kind of made up of 2 models. 8 models per side. If you're only going to give people 3 models or 6 or 4 models per side in a starter box, it feels like you're shortchanging them a little bit. You're almost asking them to then go out immediately afterwards and buy 4 more models they could have put in the starter box. And especially the way that they're made on a sprue, like it makes more sense to do it that way, because those models in the starter box won't be available separately. If you want them models, you go buy the starter box. Conversely, if you're playing a game like Kings of War, like Warhammer 40,000, like Conquest, anything that's more of an army scale type thing, where you're part of the joy of that game is the list building and the building big armies and things, I think you can sometimes get away with a scaled down version. So Mantic have started to, obviously with Kings of War, they started to look at like Ambush as their entry point. Warhammer 40,000 have started to look at Combat Patrol as their entry point. So we're talking, for example, in Kings of War, games less than 995 points. Excuse me, in Warhammer 40,000, we're talking games with predetermined armies from a Combat Patrol box. And then you got the Conquest. They've basically got 2 versions of the game now. So they've got Conquest Last Argument of Kings, which is your full-scale army game on the trays. And you can take those models off the trays and play a scaled-down version, which is more skirmish level, just using the models on their bases rather than in the regiment trays, called First Blood. And that's another way to kind of get into the game. So these companies are now starting to kind of scale down their games a little bit, because they need a jumping in point. They need a way to get into the game, because not every game can be basically supplied with 2 full armies. Like if 40k came with 2,000 point armies, those starter boxes will be out of people's range. And also their business model is they want you to keep buying models, and buying the models you like, not necessarily the models that they give you. So there's many different types of starter sets when it comes to things like that. Tasty Brain Drain, good evening, mate. Paul Leonard saying, Craigie, was that a week ago? I forgot what we were talking about there. Frantic says, GW has that nailed, I think. Tiered starters allow people to choose at what level they want to jump in. You don't need to give £120 to £150 to decide if a game is for you. Yeah, no, I don't think every company can do it. I don't think they're big enough, or their audience is big enough to do it. For example, I can't see sort of who would I suggest? Even Warlord, for example, I can't see them doing like their Band of Brothers like size sort of set, and then doing a slightly smaller one, and then doing a slightly smaller one again. I can't see them doing that kind of thing. But Games Workshop, and I don't know if anybody saw the Painting Phases interview thing last week with the I forget the gentleman's name, but the guy who used to work in their hobby team, and he talked about And it made complete sense to me. We were chatting about it in our Patreon chat a little bit. It made complete sense to me because I've worked in an industry where I'm working in product development, and I'm not designing products for me. I'm not designing products for kind of like the absolute fan base, if you like. You're designing products at that level and that kind of company for the mass market. And that's where these starter sets come in. So the Leviathan box, for example, is for that almost that fine end of the wedge, if you like, or the fine end of the trumpet, where you've got your real kind of hardcore hobbyists who love the game, know exactly what it's all about. They're not worried about kind of whether the game's for them or not. They just want to get into it, and they want to get into it quick with some new models and get the new rules. And that will just sell because you've got enough of them at that level. After that, you've then got the starter sets, and you've got those 3 levels of starter sets. For the wide end of that funnel, or the wide end of that trumpet, you've got the kind of the smallest of the starter sets. It's probably got about 15, 20 models inside it. It might have a little bit of cardboard terrain. It'll have really kind of pared down sort of basic rules, if you like. And it's more about, it's that birthday present kind of purchase for somebody that you don't know what to get them, be it kids or like nieces and nephews and that kind of thing. It's the kind of level where if somebody's thinking about dipping their toe in, it's not too much to spend to kind of give it a try. And anybody who's maybe thinking of picking it up for the first time. The next level is you've then got like a core starter set, if you like, and that's with enough models to kind of have 2 relatively decent size kind of starter armies. The rule book's a little bit thicker. It's got a bit more of the core rules in it. It maybe comes with a mat to play on as well. And that's really for the person that's, I guess they're a bit more knowledgeable, or they've got a bit more money to spend. And then the third level is kind of like their ultimate starter set, which is like 2 full combat patrol size armies. It comes with some terrain in there. It's like £120 or something like that. This is more for your returning to the game kind of people who know what it's about. Again, people with a little bit more money to spend. But I think it's aimed at people who understand what they're buying, as opposed to it just being a bit of a starter set. So I think they nail it really well. Everybody else just tries to create a starter set based upon getting people to try the game out, or an easy way to market and sell like a new edition of something. VJ, thank you very much there, mate, for the donation through the super chat there. What does it say? It says, Taxman was nice, so I'm shouting a pint. I probably owe you one anyway. Consider it my first round for next time we catch up. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate that. So yeah, so there's lots of that kind of there's lots of those kind of starter sets like that. Let's have a little look here. I'm going to try and catch up on some of the chat here as well as we go through. Where we go? I think I'll just dive in here. Frantic saying GW nailed that, I think. Tiered starter sets, that's what we were chatting about as well, wasn't it, mate? Yeah. VJ saying need is subjective. I need bacon to survive. Veggios might disagree, but they're wrong. Yeah, need is definitely subjective, mate. You're not wrong on that one. Tony saying, I'm not a fan of the GW2 player box sets when they release a whole load of existing minis with 2 new ones that won't be available for 6 months. Yeah, I mean, that's their way to kind of ensure that those kind of things sells. And again, this comes back to what I was saying before about if you don't put them in a starter set and you just release them, there are people that will just buy like that one model for their army because they play that army. You put them in a nice starter set, and all of a sudden you've got a bit of a mix of people who'll buy them, and then it pays for the tool and everything else kind of thing. So that's why they do it. Doesn't mean we have to like it, but that's why the reasons are behind it. Yeah, Tony's saying minis for painty type, so we need to be careful to avoid the hype train. Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. John saying the people around me depend on me to keep my need for tobacco filled. Life depends on it. And Clyde saying I'm more in your boat these days to Tony as well. Vijay saying if you're playing Battletech Classic 1 mini aside, it's more than enough. Yeah, I don't think I think I've seen BattleTech played once, but I can't say I really know much about it, if I'm honest. Yeah, Clyde, I live in hope one day my son will play. Alan Stewart, thank you very much for the donation as well. What does that one say? It says, your streams are always great. You're very kind, mate. He says, in a twist no one saw coming, I think GW probably have the best starter sets available right now. Yeah, I think you're probably right, mate, because I don't think you can really complain about the starter sets, because if you say, well, they're too expensive, you go, well, have you looked at the cheap one? And if you go, well, you don't get much in it, you go, well, have you looked at the middle-sized one? You go, oh, but it's not even 2 full-size armies. You go, well, have you looked at the kind of top-tier one, which has got 2 full combat patrol-sized armies in it for cheaper than buying 2 combat patrols? So I think it's like they've created a nice little kind of niche of getting into the game now, to be fair. And I know they've done those for a few years now, but I think the difference this time is combat patrol is a thing, and offering one of those starter sets to be an entry point for 2 people to play combat patrol, even if they never grow their army from there, like at least they've got something to kind of to play with some kind of meaning to it, if you like. Let's have a little dive into here. I'll try. I apologize if I miss any other comments and stuff like that, but I'm just kind of diving in. There's quite a lot of chat tonight. Yoakum saying, do like good 2-player starter sets, split it with my brother, and that lets us try a lot of games. We usually don't spend much more on the games unless we really like them. I'm a big fan of that, mate, to be fair. Quite often I'll buy a 2-player starter set and treat it a little bit like a board game type thing, where like, as long as I can play with what's inside here, maybe I don't need to buy anymore. Like, I went quite deep into Warcry when it first came out, and I was buying quite a lot of the different factions. But me and my brother-in-law played it quite a lot, and we essentially played it with the same few factions over and over again, really, because it was nice, quick fun. And for all I went in deep as well with Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, like I found myself playing the same kind of sort of army list, if you like, or the same kind of sort of squad of minis, just because I'd painted them and I liked them. I liked playing when I painted minis, and I wouldn't say I was playing it often enough to get really good at it. So every time I come back and I played with the same models again, at least I knew what they did, kind of thing. So there's a lot to be said about just kind of buying a starter set and then not going any further with it. VGA says, Mantic are great at cycling the armies in their starter sets with an addition, unlike GW, which I absolutely applaud them for. Yeah, I mean, they know where their cash cow is. I don't necessarily think Mantic have necessarily got a poster boy faction, if you like, so much, with the way GW do with their Space Marines. Like, there's a reason they keep putting them in them starter sets, and it's because they're by far their biggest selling kind of army, really. And you have to. One of the things that came out of that that video last week was almost like, people have to remember, and again, this is something I take for granted a little bit, but people have to remember that not every product's for them. And the vocal people that you hear online gnashing their teeth and ranting and raving that like these boxes are a load of rubbish kind of thing or whatever. If you don't like that, it probably wasn't. They didn't have you in mind when they created it, kind of thing. What they had in mind were the people just starting out, or the people thinking of starting a new army, or that kind of stuff. So I think we have to take a healthy dose of kind of reality sometimes with this stuff, and say, remember, not everything that gets released by every company is meant for you. Now, it might be that sometimes it is meant for you and the company's missed the mark, but a lot of the time, if it's not for you, just kind of scroll on, if you like, and wait for the next one. Let's have a little look here. Paul Inman, hello mate. He said, I think it depends on what you think a starter set is. Sometimes a starter set is a 2-player set. Sometimes it's a starter set for a specific force. Both meet different requirements. Yeah, I agree, mate. And I think the naming convention that different companies use as well confuses this. So you have, like, for example, Star Wars Shatterpoint is called a core set. It's not called a starter set, but it's a way to start playing the game. You have a starter set for Conquest, which has the city-states and the nodes in it, and you get quite a few models in that. But then, not Corvus Belli, sorry, Parabellum also do single army starter sets. So if you want to just play city states, they do a city states starter set for that particular army. Like Mantic, for example, do starter sets which are a 2-player starter set with 2 small armies in. Let's say for Northern Alliance and Night Stalkers. But then they also do an army box, or they do an ambush starter set, like this one, for example. Because I've been building this one today. So they do these, which are actually called an ambush starter set, as you can see there, if that'll focus. So that is called a starter set, and that's a starter set for Night Stalkers. Then they do an army set, which is like a kind of a collection of models to get you started in an army. Then they do a mega army set, which is a bigger selection of models designed as a good value way to get you started with an army. So I think it's the naming convention of all these things. We have core sets, introductory sets, starter sets. I think it really depends upon, one, who they're trying to attract, and two, what are you kind of looking for? Like, for example, let me see if I can find the new starter sets for 40k. We'll have a look and see what they've called them, because they've called them some new different things. So what they've got is they've got the ultimate starter set, and this ultimate starter set here, as you can see, is £125 is the recommended retail price, but it does come with it comes with the full rules for the game. It comes with dice, it comes with gaming boards, and I think it comes with 2 gaming boards, which gives you the full kind of combat patrol size base to play on. It contains 44 push fit models for 2 balanced forces. So basically it is the combat patrol box for the Space Marines and the combat patrol box for the Tyranids. And it also gives you 9 pieces of modular terrain to fight over as well. So as you can see from the pictures there, there's quite a lot of stuff in that box. So for example, you've got, here's your Space Marine force, and then here's your Tyranid force as well. So there's a lot of stuff in there, but conversely it is also £125. Now for nearly half that, £165, they've got one called a starter set. So the last one was called Ultimate Starter Set. This one's called a starter set. And this one basically has 1 board in as opposed to the 2 boards. Well, it says gaming mat in this. This one might be paper, to be fair. It's got the basic rules for the game, so not the full rules. It's got 38 models in, so it's got a few less models in it. And it doesn't come with any terrain either. So you kind of, there's enough here to, if you want the models, but maybe you're not as worried about the terrain and stuff. But it's significantly cheaper as well. And then they have this one, which is the Warhammer introductory set, which is only £40, which I think is fantastic value. It said it has basic rules for the game, has dice, has gaming mat, has reference seats, and it has a range ruler, and it comes with 16 models. So a lot less models. So for example, that's your Tyranid list. So just a lot of kind of your more basic ones rather than the big kind of big monsters and stuff. And then from a Space Marine list, it essentially comes with like a squad of 5 of your basic troops. But again, it's only £40. Lots of places will have this on discount with 20% off. So we're starting to talk about £32 for this. Like, it'll be £32 just for those 5 models on its own. And so what you'll find is a lot of people who want to upgrade their Terminator, upgrade their Tyranid list, or want to upgrade their Space Marine list, might just buy this purely because it's a good value way of buying those models. So Games Workshop have got an introductory set, a starter set, and an ultimate starter set. And then if we take a look, let's take a look at Mantic, and we see what they've got. So Mantic, for example, let's go to Kings of War, because it's their biggest game. And if we click on the Getting Started list, they've got the Ice and Shadow 2-player starter set, which has got the rules in and a couple of armies, which is the Night Stalkers and the Northern Alliance. They've got the Sands of Amun starter set, which has got the rules in, and 2 starter armies for is it the Riftforged Orcs and the Empire of Dust. No, it's not the Rift. It's not the Riftforged Orcs, is it? What is it? Let's have a look. Is it the Riftforged Orcs? It's the Ogres, sorry, the Ogres, not the Riftforged Orcs. We've got the Storm and the Shire's 2-player starter set, which has got Riftforged Orcs, and it's got Halflings in it. Then they've got the Kings of War and the Hold's 2-player starter set, which has got Goblins and Rats in it. So they've got a number of different, all called 2-player sets, which is a fantastic starter set, as it says here. Then, if you want to kind of pick up a particular... Is that what all they've got there? Oh, then they've got these ambush starter sets, which are these things that I was showing you here for £35, which is kind of like a getting started type thing. Then you've got... let's pick a faction and just show you the kind of things they do. So let's go factions. Let's go Northern Alliance, because they're new. Just had some new models. So they've got this ambush starter set for £35. They've got the army, which is essentially a single player starter set without the rules, for £75. And then they've got the mega army set for £115. So I think Mantic have done a good job as well, to be fair to them, of covering every base. But what I would say is there's always an element of, with choice comes confusion. So I think a company that have done a good job of this, let's just go to TT Combat and Carnivalier. So their starter sets here, we're getting started, they have got, let's get rid of that, you've got the option to buy a small Carnivalier rulebook for £10. You can buy the full rulebook with all of the background stuff in for £20. You can buy a starter set, which is called Escape from San Cansino, or Cansano, for £35. Now, I think this is probably the best value starter set that's out there. And as you can see, it looks like it comes with quite a chunk of stuff in there, really. So it comes with 8 resin characters from the Guild and the Rashar. So there's 4 characters on each side. Those ones and those ones. It then also comes with the mini rule book for £10. It comes with some of these like kind of cardboard mats or paper mats to play the game on. It comes with dice and tokens. It comes with these cardboard terrain, which just helps you to kind of get started and makes the game look nice. And I think that is, like, from a starter set, that is fantastic value to kind of dip your toe in. The next one up is the 2-player starter set, the full 2-player starter set. And what's interesting is this contains the same 2 factions. And if you started with the £35 starter set, this one contains more models for those factions without giving you duplicates. So there's nothing stopping you upgrading and buying this second starter set. This one gives you the full rule book. It also gives you more models, so 8 for each side. It also gives you some acrylic tokens as well, so it upgrades your tokens from the paper ones that were in the original box. And it gives you more of these mats as well to make a bigger playing surface. Even gives you things like the little boat and stuff like that as well. And this one is £65. And again, this is available online with 20% discount. So you're talking, what's that? That's like £6.50, 13 quid off that. You're starting to get down towards like nearly £50 for that, which is a fantastic bargain. So yeah, so there's a couple of good starter sets for those kind of things. So there's plenty of good examples of starter sets out there. I think like another one, for example, is if we go to Corvus Belly. Let's have a look at that one. So we've got let's have a look. Let's have a little look at their shop. So yeah, Corvus Belly, obviously they do 2 versions of Infinity. They do Code 1 and they also do like full scale as well. And what they'll do is they do these kind of starter boxes. So these sort of Operation Kaldstrom. Is that going to take us to the shop thing there? Start playing, that's the place to be, isn't it? So they've got like Operation Blackwind. So as you can see, that's, you get some of the nice kind of hard card terrain in there, plus 2 kind of Code 1 sized armies, and they're a great way to start. They then basically do what they call their Beyond boxes. So So you've got Operation Blackwind, and then you've got Beyond Operation Blackwind, which basically gives you like 3 models for each of the 2 factions that are in there, and just expands on what you got in the core box. Which then starts to obviously take you up as well into full scale Infinity if you want to play that as well. So I think like companies, like there's a lot of companies doing a good job these days, much more than they used to. But yeah, it's definitely a there's a wide price range out there, to be honest. Right, let's dive back into this chat here and see where we're up to as well. Tony Howell saying never bought into Shatterpoint. He said it was tempted due to the excitement of others, but realised the whole Star Wars thing is way after my time. I enjoyed Star Wars Empire Strikes Back before. Yeah, I like Star Wars, mate. It's always been a big thing on my list. Matt Lumley saying the new 40k set is the way starters should go. Couple of models, couple of paints, a few tools. Hobby needs good intro products, not just big boxes of models for us hoarders. The problem is, mate, is if you start to put that kind of stuff into it, you are really limiting who you're trying to attract with that starter box. You really are then trying to attract like beginners, if you like, or absolute newbies to the hobby. And I think somebody like Games Workshop can do those kind of boxes, those kind of sort of beginner boxes, get started boxes, because they are the kind of the route into the hobby for most people. But I think other companies really just would not sell enough of those to justify their inclusion. I mean, they can do it as a bundle deal, but yeah, for the vast majority of people, I think most people who like, I think what you find is you get people who are getting into the hobby with Games Workshop, and then you'll get people who are in the hobby and are looking for a new game, and that's when they discover Infinity and Shatterpoint and Star Wars Legion and Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think maybe things like Marvel and Star Wars might bring in a different audience as well, potentially, but they might not necessarily be the kind of things you stumble across. But I think in generally, when it comes to things like Kings of War, like things like Infinity, things like Conquest, things like Song of Ice and Fire, you are generally you're appealing to people who probably played 40k, probably played AOS or Fantasy, and are looking for a change of game kind of thing. I think there's very few people, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but there's few people who get into the hobby from a complete standing start with no experience of building models, no tools, no paints, no glue, no brushes, and get started with basically those kind of games. Haxan saying God Tier is definitely worth trying. One of my favourite games and great fun to paint. Must have been talking about God Tier way back there somewhere. James Bray, hello mate, how you doing? He says Marvel Crisis Protocol starter box was a great deal. I think I paid £60 for it. Yeah, I think I paid it as well, mate. It was quite heavily discounted though, because I think originally it wasn't that cheap. It was over £90, I think, at kind of list price. But I think I got it like pretty cheap as well, to be fair. VJ saying, not a huge fan of games that put new models exclusive to big starters, even for a limited time. I see from a business perspective why they do it. Feels like thumbing their noses to existing players. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, mate. I know why they do it, and I think they'll continue to do it. But Dream Builder, good evening. Nice to see you in as well. John says, I've only ever really bought 2 starter sets in a while. Shatterpoint and Dystopian Wars. All my mates had fleets for it, but not what was in the 2-player starter set. So I got it and had 2 full fleets. Yeah, not a bad way to do it, mate. Thumbnails are saying the product guest was Tom Hibbert. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, it was a good. And VJ saying, yeah, Paint and Phase is Peachy's podcast. Yeah, that's the name of the channel, mate. Paint and Phase. Let's have a little look here. Yeah, VJ saying plenty to complain about when it comes to GW. Their starter sets isn't one of them. Spoonie says something never clicked with me with him when he was at GW. I think he's talking about Peachy. Says, but genuinely funny and decent guy with good attitude to painting. I prefer him to Duncan now. I think it's one of them things when you're representing a company rather than representing yourself. You have to put on a very different kind of outlook sometimes, and sometimes you can't say exactly what you think because it doesn't toe the party line. In the same way that whatever job you do, I'm sure that if you're public speaking, for example, as Peachy would be on live streams and things for Games Workshop, there's things that you couldn't say, or things that or certainly you can't always give your opinion because you are representing somebody else, and I guess that's the biggest difference. Haxan saying Curse City was a non-starter set, one of the biggest FUs of Games Workshop's history. However, I like the game despite the issues. I think I'm kind of the opposite side of the fence to you there, mate. I think the set itself and what's included is fantastic, but I wasn't a big fan of the game. John saying the latest starter box from GW is a fantastic deal, just like that first free hit of heroin. Tony saying try Batman out. You have the Batman who laughs. Do you know what, mate? I hear so many good things about the Batman miniatures game, other than the fact that Night Models is the one that own it, and they have their own troubles and their own problems. But that the game is fantastic, and I love Batman. I've been more of a DC fan really, rather than Marvel over the years. But yeah, for some reason I've just never managed. I think it's because it's Night Models and it really puts me off. But yeah, I can't I can't question that the miniatures themselves are fantastic. James says Duncan Rhodes must be doing okay as his painting academy's been going a while now, but I still feel like the paywall was a bold move. Patreon and all the social media may have been easier money. I think the problem is, mate, I think people think it's easier money, but it's not. Like it's hard graft trying to recruit new people all the time into Patreon, and it's hard graft trying to, like, if you do a video that doesn't do particularly well, like, you're not making any money from it, kind of thing. You're not getting those hours back. And I think paywall, when you are an established name like that, I think it might actually be the way to go, to be fair. Paul says I usually buy Infinity starter sets and the Beyond expansion boxes. I take the starter set forces to standard size forces. I rarely expand the force beyond that. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to do it, mate, to be fair. Sometimes it's worth doing that and then start a new faction. Buy the next starter box when it comes out, kind of thing. Thumbnail says Curse City, I hear, is actually amazing. Okay. But the rollout was so bad. Never played it myself, but do know Squidmore loves it. Nah, not a fan of the game in the slightest. It was a massive disappointment to me personally. James Bray and I had this conversation not that long ago. But I love the models. I love the setting. I love the theme. I actually have the audio book now downloaded to listen to on my holidays, because I bought the book and I still haven't read it, but I think I will listen to the audio book while I'm away on holiday. Gav says Team Yankee is a good starter set, less than 50 quid for 2 starter forces. They're not what the rules say is a legal list in regards to HQ and troop choices, but it's a cheap entry point. Sometimes, mate, that's all you need with certain games. And VJ says, yeah, my comment was more applauding Mantic for cycling factions, not attacking GW for putting Marines in every book. No, I know that's what you mean, mate. I think, at the end of the day, I think it's like what they were talking about in that thing last week, is everything's a financial decision, really. I think with a lot of hobby companies these days, they're still owned and run by hobbyists. We talked about this last week when we were talking about like Mantic run with Ronnie, and Warlord run by John Stallard, and Corvus Belli run by a kind of passionate hobbyist, and all this kind of stuff. And I think sometimes they make decisions which are business decisions, but they're made by people who are hobbyists and have a part of their business decision is made upon what they think that people will love, kind of thing. Where I think GW is very much run by the accountants now. Big Dave says GW said that for the old world there won't be a starter set, but there will be a launch box. So I think it's quite a loose description. I think in that case, I think what they'll do is they will launch something which will be I think it'll be a pretty penny, and I think it'll be along the lines of like Leviathan type of thing, like they've done in the past with some quite expensive Necromunda box sets, where they know the audience is going to be smaller than 40k, so they will maximise the limited edition nature of it to drive sales. And then basically after that was, and because they know for a fact the vast majority of people who get into the old world, this is not making a product for new players coming into the hobby. This is making a product for people that have been kind of chewing their ear off for the last 10 years or whatever to bring the game back. Ian Floyd, hello mate. He says a smaller Shatterpoint set would be good. Smaller game for 2 players or full set for 1 player. Maybe cardboard terrain that complements the core set to keep it around £70 or £80. I think, to be honest, mate, I think what you'll find is that what will happen over time is once this initial kind of hype's over with for the start, you'll start to see that core set coming down in price. It'll start to get discounted. The same thing happened with Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I think you'll start to see it being like sub £100, purely based upon the fact is that they know that the vast majority of people who are hyped for the game have now bought it, and there'll be that dip off point, so they'll need to do something to keep recruiting new players. And they'll do that through probably a discount in the core box later on down the line. VG says Mantic sets were really great. The Mega Army boxes are hands down best faction boxes in the tabletop gaming industry. They're certainly good value. I think the problem is that the mixture of the quality of models is where they let themselves down. I would say that not every, and this is not every faction, like there's a lot of the newer factions now have pretty much all new models in, but some of the older factions are a real mix in quality, and I would say that is the weak point in that kind of stuff. John saying, I can't help but think that untouched Dreadfleet box in the tote downstairs every time I see a new edition of a GW game and get back to work building and painting from the pile. We're all guilty about, mate. I've got starter boxes coming out my ears that I don't know what to do with. And will it stop me buying another one? No. A prime example, Shatterpoint. Really excited for it. Couldn't wait for it to come out. Finally got my hands on it. I've painted the terrain. I've painted a few models. I still haven't had my first game yet. I'm just kind of like I'm finding the time to get through it and get my first game in is harder than I anticipated. Paul Lennis has just picked up Shatterpoint core set. I'm a bit daunted, but I love Star Wars and couldn't resist. Not sure if there's any players locally in Belfast. I think there certainly will be, mate. I think it's a game that's growing, that's for sure. I think you touch on a good point there as well, though, and it's something that again was touched upon in the painting phase interview last week, is that getting started bit. Like there's the hype of something new's coming out. I'm really excited for it. I've got it. And then the moment where you take the lid off and you just go, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Like, when am I going to find the time to get all this? I've got to build all this terrain. I've got to paint the terrain. I've got to build all the models. Like, I got the 2 expansions that came out the same wave as the core set. And I've still got them in cellophane. They're in shrink wrap over there. Purely because I've said to myself, I'm not even going to open them until I've painted all of the core set. Otherwise, I'll just end up with a big pile of grey stuff for it. And there's new stuff coming out for Shatterpoint, and there's some models that I absolutely love, like Mace Windu and stuff like that. And I'm purposefully holding back on them until I'm not buying any more for it until I've painted what I've got for that game. Because otherwise, I love Star Wars and I love the models. I think they're fantastic quality. I'll get myself just caught up in this pile of grey plastic, a bit like I did with Marvel Crisis Protocol. And at some point, I'll go back and I will paint them, and I still play that game. So it's not like it's kind of dead money or anything like that. But I don't want to get sort of wrapped up in it. From a collecting point of view, I want to actually get them finished. I mean, I've got some stuff on my desktop here. Like, I've been painting up these Mandalorians and stuff, so like if I can just, they are, I'm working on them. They're starting to get done, so it's not like they're kind of being ignored. But I feel like every now and again I'll spend half an hour and do a little bit of hobby. I'm out of the groove, I think it is, when it comes to hobby. I think I could do with sitting painting with somebody. I think sitting having a bit of a natter, sitting having a bit of a chat and having a bit of a painting hangout, maybe not necessarily a live stream and painting with people, because I think I get distracted and I worry more about kind of like the stream side of things. But maybe just kind of hanging out painting, you know what I mean, having a beer. But yeah, my point being, sorry, Paul, the element of getting daunted from a starter set is also one of those things as well. VG says only the ultimate version comes with the full rule book. That's a bold move. I don't think there's that much missing from it, mate, to be fair, because in fairness, the rules are free online. So I don't know exactly. I think we're talking maybe it's like 5 or 6 pages less in those starter sets. In fact, let me have a little look in the background while we're talking. I think it says the ultimate starter set, if I can scroll down and find it. It comes with a 72-page soft cover, Warhammer 40k core rules book, right? So it's 72 pages, and then the starter set, which is the £60-odd one, comes with a 64-page. Is that? Oh no, that says it comes with a 64-page soft cover starter set handbook with construction guides, rules, tutorials, and training missions. So it doesn't actually mention the rule book in that one. It just say basic rules for the game. Maybe the starter set is expecting you to go online and download the rules yourself in that respect. And like the cheapest one comes with a 48-page introductory handset book with some painting guides, rules, tutorials, and training missions. So I think basically it's maybe it's the only one that comes with the rules in print. Maybe the other ones they're expecting you to kind of to download the free ones. Vijay saying, yeah, again, if they're moving to digital rules, oh yes, that's what I'm saying. Gav saying basic rules in the starter sets, like having a starter set that isn't a starter set. I think, like I say, maybe it's to kind of get you to go online and get them, basically. So that's where they're saving a little bit of money in it. Yeah, John saying the Ghost Ship and the Dreadfleet set's one of the coolest I've ever seen. That dwarf ironclad is fantastic. Paul saying it's Escape from Canciano. There you go, mate. Thanks for the presentation. Thumbnails are saying with choice comes confusion. That was basically Tom Hibbard's message on the painting phase, and as someone that's trying to buy an oscilloscope, I can only wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, I mean, sometimes giving people choice is and making it confusing for them is actually a business tactic in itself, because what you can sometimes do is you give people too much choice and they default into buying what they think is the better quality version or the more expensive product, because they think, well, it must be the best because that's the most expensive one. And so it's the reason why like Starbucks and Costa and stuff have a small, medium and large, but they're not evenly spaced in price, even though they might be evenly spaced in size. There's a whole marketing thing about you have your small size. Let's say a small drink's £2, a medium-sized drink is £2.90, and a large drink is like £3.10. And you go, well, I don't really want a small one. I'll get a medium one. Oh, but there's only like 20p difference or something between a medium and a large. I might as well get a large one. And that pricing thing is quite common in that kind of, I've already decided that I'm not going to get the small one, but the medium one's almost the same price as the large one, so I'll get that. And it happens a lot in like things like bottles of Coke, like when the 1.5 litre bottle is not much cheaper than the 2 litre bottle kind of thing. So you upgrade, you upsize. It's a well-known sales tactic, and same kind of thing. So what you can do is by giving people choice, you sometimes force them mentally to spend more. Vijay saying Carnivalia missing a trick, not including a 3D card bridge in their starter. I mean, what's his Venice more than a bridge over a canal? Probably the quality of their card terrain is probably what stops them including it, mate. Thumbnail says, if you already know the starter sets are great and not confusing, ironically, if you have no clue, you quickly end up having no idea what to buy until you know enough to know you bought it. Yeah, and I think that's what happens a little bit with Kings of War, is they maybe have too much choice when it comes to that kind of stuff. Let me skip ahead a little bit. Jez, mate, how you doing? Nice to see you. Let's have a little look here. Greg Cherry, hello mate. He said he's finally built and painted all the core set in about 7 games in. Also trying to get into collecting them all like I did with Marvel. Greg, I feel like we're distant brothers in that, mate. Haxan says I still haven't finished painting models for Deathwatch Overkill. I had it for ages, not to mention Warcry boxes I haven't started or completed. Vijay saying I live my life out of the groove right now. Yeah, do you know what it is? I still have loads of passion and love for hobby and tabletop hobby and stuff like that, but I feel like I fell off the wagon with painting a little bit. Like I keep trying to motivate all of you to do things through sort of slow grow campaigns and monthly painting challenges. I should take a kind of a leaf out my own book, to be fair. Greg says that this Shatterpoint core box could easily be one and done purchase if you're going to play 10 or 15 games a year. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely, it can. Vijay says I need to take Madonna's advice and get into the groove. I thought you were going to say it like a virgin. Thumbnail says a different groove. Yeah. Sometimes I'm going to paint and play it. Sumblan says I say this every time I'm going to buy a new game or starter. It's a bit like people buying video games kind of thing and then playing them for an hour and then never going back to them again kind of thing. John says if you download the 40k rules, you still can't play the game. You have to purchase cards as well to be able to play. I saw Discourse Minis talking about it. I think that you don't have to download, you don't have to purchase the cards. The cards are available, or the stats are available, I think, online for free as well. I think the data sheets are all available online. Now, I think at some point they will bring back codexes, and they might technically invalidate, if you're playing the latest version, they might technically invalidate those cards, but I'm pretty sure those data cards are available online to download as well. So yeah, they're not included in the core book though. John says I was 16 when Madonna hit the airwaves. God, I can't remember how old I was. Alan says yeah, choice confusion thing is tactics for the price anchoring. Absolutely, mate. Tony says I have no idea what the whole thing with night models is. I tend not to worry about community politics. I just buy and paint with what I like. It's not necessarily about community politics, mate. It's more about that they're just, and pardon my French, they're just pretty shit. Like they're generally out of stock a lot. They had a lot of problems with quality, where a lot of their products would turn up broken, and then their customer service was absolutely awful at trying to replace them. People will be waiting weeks and maybe months for a reply from them. Then they'd wait maybe 3 months to get a spare part sent out if a part was missing or something like that. Then Night Models try to get people to take things back to the shop, and then the shop then apply to Night Models to get the spare parts. They've generally just not been a great company, mate. It's nothing like politics-wise. It's more just about they're out of stock a lot. Their quality control wasn't great. Now, I think, to be fair to them, I think a lot of that stuff's been fixed now, and it's improved, shall we say. But those kind of things kind of last long in the memory. A bit like Wayland Games don't have the greatest of name. Like for saying they had things in stock when they didn't, and taking ages to ship things out, telling people that they had the product in stock, taking the money and then telling them, oh, it's not in stock anymore, we'll just hold on to your money until it comes in, kind of thing. Now, again, I don't think they're like that anymore. I think they're pretty reliable now. Everybody seems to sort of say good words for them now. But those kind of names and stories kind of stick in people's minds. People still talk about the quality of Mantix Mini and say that the Minis are a load of rubbish, and basically they're just cheap GW knockoff kind of things. And things have moved on a lot from there, but to some people, that's what sits in their mind, kind of thing. And I think that's the same with Night Models, mate. They generally just have a bad reputation. Gav says, sorry, but I'm going to have to call it a night. Joys of a 12-hour shift tomorrow. Take care, my friend. Tony says, it would probably inevitably be driving you back to GW products. Yeah, I think that's the problem, mate. I think this is what happens, is some of these smaller companies, shall we say, they get a reputation for bad customer service or bad quality or something, and people instantly go, I didn't have this with Games Workshop, and just go back to what they know and what they feel comfortable with. Jess says, when I give prices on work, I often give 3 options, 3 prices. The cheapest and easiest, the middle price is the best, and the one I want to make, then unnecessarily expensive. Yeah, exactly, mate. I mean, I've quoted for work when people have asked me to sort of, would you do some paid work for me? I've sometimes just quoted like stupid prices because I don't really want to do it. I don't want to kind of sour the relationship, and I might want to work with them in the future, but I'm just a bit busy to do stuff. And if I take on the work, I probably have to drop a load of other stuff to get it done. So you end up just saying, look, I'll do it, but it's going to be expensive because like the consequences they're not going to affect to me means I have to kind of take on a lot of pain in the short term to get it done. So if I'm going to take on pain, you're going to have to take on some pain as well, kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely works that way. John saying, I've got the Catalyst Alpha Strike starter set earlier this year, though there are a few things in the queue before I open it and get cracking on with the models. Also got the hardcover rules book. I'm assuming Alpha Strike is the Battletech thing, isn't it? Mark Bericloff, hello mate, how you doing? He said, I just had that issue with Wayland Games a couple of weeks ago. There you go mate, maybe those things haven't improved. John says, the Harry Potter Kickstarter in plastics was supposed to be compatible with the original range, but the plastics were way smaller, and when people mentioned it on the Batman Kickstarter, they were removed their comments. Yeah, I remember that as well mate. Those kind of things live long in people's memories. Big Day says, I bought Killer Croc for Batman Miniatures game and it was missing a piece. Spoke to Night Models over Messenger and they sent entire new miniature. It took about 3 weeks to arrive, but it's from Spain. Yeah, I think, like I say, I think things have improved dramatically from where they were, but for a long time they basically just weren't getting back to people. And essentially it was as if they didn't have a customer services team, and people were sending emails that just never ever got answered. They were pretty bad for quite some time. VG says the problem is with the stupid prices when they say yes and you end up having to do a pain in the ass job you never wanted to do in the first place. Yeah, but at least you're being compensated for it, mate. That's the trick, isn't it? At least you're making a few quid out of it. I'm looking back at some of the comments there because I caught up on the chat. Just saying, I just realised I've had this on since the start and haven't said hello yet. Like a lurky lurker. How dare you be a lurky lurker, mate? VJ says, does Perion really have that much churn? I've had the same ones and been sub to for literally years now. You'd be surprised, mate. You'd be surprised. It does have quite a lot of churn. I think some people like just come and go kind of thing, but it's hard to recruit is the hard bit. I think it's quite hard to recruit. It's quite easy in the early days when it's new and stuff like that. But then as time goes on, you generally have your kind of like your real kind of hardcore supporters who really kind of support you and stick with you through thick and thin kind of thing, and want to support you and support what you're doing. And honestly, you couldn't do this kind of stuff without them. They really are like sort of really sort of, they're like gold dust basically. You know, they really are appreciated. And then you'll get some people who'll maybe come for a month and then leave. But recruiting new people is quite hard when you've been doing it for a while. I think people almost forget that like it's an option really. It's like, or people just think, oh well, they don't need it, like they're doing all right without me kind of thing. I'm happy with the free content kind of thing. It's harder than you think, mate. It's harder than you think. Let's have a little look here. Mutton Chops, good evening to you as well, mate. You said he was late at the party, but good evening. That's all right, mate. And Colin was saying, as a civil servant, I'm restricted but getting out of trade union rep to speak on work issues, but still got to be careful. Yeah, I mean, like, I think anybody who speaks publicly on behalf of a company they work for, you just got to be careful. I mean, people get fired for bringing their companies into disrepute. So sometimes it can be difficult to be your own personality if you're speaking on behalf of somebody else. Skulldoggery says, I feel like I'm one of those people who can get a cold start in the hobby, who got a cold start in the hobby, though I did build Gundam kits in high school, so that might count. Yeah, I mean, even I who hasn't been a massive kind of GW convert, started really with GW models, just painting and building, and then I discovered that there was other stuff out there really. So that was one thing for me basically. Let's have a little look here. Ariel Sanchez, hello mate, how you doing? VJ saying lurking. Imagine if that was your name. Mark Burton said, I never put together my Kingdom Death. I painted a few models in it, but it's not a full set. I don't know much about Kingdom Death. I mean, other than it, I know it's this big expensive thing, but I don't know much about it. Gary Jensen says, I second the lurking. Sorry. How dare you, Gary? How dare you not say that? Like, kind of like put your head above the parapet and say hello. How we're doing for likes and stuff. I'm sure we can squeeze a few more likes out. If you're all going to sit there and not say hello, the least you can do is press the like button for me. Mark's saying he's raising a hand too. Yeah, here they come. Coming, like sitting there all day and not saying a word. Tony says, yeah, you're stuck with me like a bad smell. That's all right, mate. That's a bad smell I like having around. Jess says, good evening, lurking ninjas. Somblin saying he's got to go. Have a nice day. Nice to see you, mate. Thumbnails are saying Patreon's hard for me. I have over a dozen long-time subscriptions and want more because there are so many worth supporting. But alas, not enough month at the end of the money. Absolutely, mate. And that wasn't me trying to kind of do a sales pitch. I'm not good at sales pitches. I never feel comfortable like asking people to support me. I never feel comfortable trying to sell things. I'm not a salesman. Like, that's not really what I do. And I think to my own detriment, basically, is people maybe don't even know that I have a Patreon out there, basically. So yeah, that's for me to try and get better at promoting. I don't talk about it in my videos. Like, I don't like have the support me on Patreon things or anything like that. I do have it on the end screen, but then how many people get to the end of a video? So yeah, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. VJ scuttles off to make a YouTube account under Lurky Lurkington. Cleo says a full set of Kingdom Death will be crazy expensive. Yeah, not only damage your sanity, we damage your bank account, mate. Mark says, at least I did a like before. At least you did, mate. I'll give you that one. Dave Mackay, there's another one lurking in the background as well. Mark Burton says, mostly you've playing in the background while doing work. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do, mate, to be fair. John says, I don't even know how to like a video on my phone. Do you know what it is, mate? If you can see a thumbs up button, mate, press that one. David Milano, making this up as I go, he's called. He says, hello, Peyton Orcs from a Kill Team starter set I've had for years. Speaking of subscribing and liking, my son started his first YouTube channel on Saturday. So my son is he's 7 years old. He's been nagging me for about 12 months. Can I have my own YouTube channel? And I wonder where he gets that from. And I've been against it basically for a long time. I've said, you need to stick at it. You need, like, if it's something you want to do, you need to do some research. And to be fair to him, he has gone away and over time has kind of researched the life out of it. And he probably knows as much about running a YouTube channel as I do now. So I'd said, I kind of caved and I said yes. And I said, we'll do it in the 6 weeks holidays. When you're off school, I'll be looking after you. It gives us something to do. Bit of father and son time. Bit of art in like, if you draw on paper what you want your thumbnails to look like, I'll help you kind of create them in the software on the computer. And if you record your videos, I'll teach you how to edit and stuff like that. And he's nagged the life out of me. So we did it on Saturday, and he's already recorded about 4 or 5 videos. We've edited them and put them in to schedule them to go live each week while he's on holiday. And his first video went out on Saturday, and he was over the moon. Absolutely, just like he is so made up. And I put a post in the Facebook group just asking if anybody like either had the kids or wanted to kind of support him or something like that, to be able to subscribe to his channel. And he's absolutely made up. He's got like 30 subscribers or something like that. And he is so made up. He's telling all his friends at school. He's been telling all the family to kind of that he's doing it and stuff like that. And he was really, really pleased. I mean, his video was kind of, he basically records himself playing games and stuff like that, and then I help him kind of put the little end bits on it and stuff like that, and trim out the little gaps and the ums and ers and stuff like that. But yeah, do you know what it is? He's got a right little personality. Like, you can tell he watches YouTube because he's got his little personality. So and Alan's saying, let's get him some subs. Do you know what? I would love him if he got to 50 subscribers. Like, I would absolutely be made up for him, for the little lad. Let me show you his channel. I'll find it on here, and I'll It'll be in my subscription list because obviously I'm subscribed to him. Let me find it. There he is. So there we go. This is his YouTube channel, the Geeky Gamer. It's actually the Geeky Gamer JJ because there's quite a lot of people called the Geeky Gamer. Funny enough, so he's called the Geeky Gamer JJ because his name is Jackson James. So that's what the JJ comes from. And this is his first video here. I don't think I haven't got any sound going out, so I'll be able to show you his. There he is. There he is, kind of playing these games, smiling away and having a whale of a time. And as you can see in the background there, he uses my setup. But yeah, he's absolutely loving it. So he's this is what we did on Saturday. We made his YouTube channel. So if anybody does feel the need to lend him a bit of support, I'm not asking for people to come and support me on Patreon. I'm asking you to give him a little bit of support. So yeah, the Geeky Gamer JJ, he would be over the moon if we can get him up to a few more subscribers. He's already done a video ready for Saturday when he's on holiday, and he's got another video that's kind of scheduled to go for the Saturday after while he's away on holiday. So yeah, he's absolutely kind of just he's loving doing it. He's so passionate about it. He's asking about kind of when's the right time to release the videos. How do people know? How do you kind of, can I reply to the comments and all that kind of stuff? So yeah, he's absolutely loving it. But yeah, he's 7. Is he 7? No, he's 6. He's 7. He's 7 in September. So yeah, he's 6 at the moment, but he's nearly 7. But yeah, he's absolutely loving it. Yeah. Paul saying, has your lad got a Patreon as well? No, he's not quite at that. He's not quite at that level yet, mate. To be honest, there'll probably come a point where I'll just quit what I do and I'll be editing for him. Never mind him editing for me. To be fair. So yeah. By all means, go and give him a bit of support. It would really, I'd really appreciate that anyway. Andrew Fairbanks, hello mate, how are you doing? Alan says, what do you get most support from in terms of percentage, Patreon or YouTube members? So in terms of how much you spend versus how much of it I see, Patreon is by far the better kind of deal for me, if you like. I think YouTube take about 40% of YouTube memberships. They take a big chunk, which is a lot, but by the same stretch, without them providing a platform and all of this free service, if you like, I wouldn't have a job really. So I'm not too upset about that. But Patreon obviously take a cut, but it's way smaller than YouTube do. So if you let's say for example you had $2 to spend. Or $5 to spend, you'd be better off putting it into Patreon than you would be putting it into YouTube membership. From that respect. Clyde says, need to sneak you a starter of Pulp Alley. I'd quite like to see that one, mate, to be fair. VJ says, what videos are currently in the queue? Any collabs? Any progress on that interview? No progress on the interview, mate. I completely forgot about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I've got some work in the background that's going on. I've been chatting with My Mini Factory, who are the company that I was talking to you about, who made the 3D printed coloured minis. So I've been they've got a new community manager at the minute, and we're talking in the background as well about doing some collaboration stuff together on My Mini Factory stuff, and about what they do, because they're not just like the eBay or the Amazon of STL files. They actually sell kind of physical printed minis and stuff as well, and they're teaming up with companies like Mantic, and they're teaming up with companies like One Page Rules. So there's a lot of work on stuff like that going on in the background as well. And I've got a few other bits and pieces kind of bubbling away. I've got some tokens that have been sent by the same token for Star Wars Shatterpoint, which are fantastic quality. I need to do a video on those as well. So yeah, there's all sorts of things kind of bubbling away in the background. But it's about kind of bringing them to fruition and finishing them off, mate, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. Tizzy Brindrin says, yeah, that's why I lurk sometimes, because I'm always watching these streams at work. Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. Cleo saying, congrats to your son. Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Yeah. John says, I've got Gloomhaven unopened. I went to crack it open. Sounds a bit... Alan Stewart, thank you for... I thought I'd heard a noise there. Thank you very much, mate. I really do appreciate that. Very, very kind of you, mate. You didn't... I'm not, as I said before, I wasn't trying to sort of plead for new Patreons and stuff like that, but I'll be honest, that's how I pay the bills. Cleo says, starting them young. Yeah, honestly, it was one of those things where I just thought, do I really want them, like, doing it on YouTube and stuff like that? And I thought about just doing it and then, like, not really showing anyone, keeping it private, but letting him upload his videos and stuff. And yeah, I thought, you know what it is? As long as I kind of monitor the comments and stuff like that, and he's not getting anything nasty or anything like that, you know, why not let him do it? He's putting his heart and soul into it. He's researching it. He literally drew out his own. So the little banner thing that he had on the top of his channel. See if I can find it again. Let me show you the little banner that he had on the top of his channel. He made it himself. He drew it out on paper what he wanted to do, and then we sat together on Saturday, and so yeah, his little banner thing across the top here. Because I was saying something like, you know, so he's got this like Minecraft lava at the bottom, and I was saying, like, do you want that to come halfway up, like through the thing? And he was going, no, it needs to be lower down because I want it to look like Minecraft Steve's falling in it kind of thing. I don't want it to be too high, otherwise he looks like he's drowned in it. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And like he literally went through and chose what color each of the different letters had to be and stuff like that. And I've just noticed his subscriber numbers. Thank you so much to anybody that's subscribed to him there. He will be absolutely blown away in the morning when he wakes up. He's like, he literally, it's the last thing he talks about when he goes to bed, and it's the first thing he talks about when he wakes up in the morning. So yeah, thanks folks who are helping and supporting him there. Really, I really do appreciate it. VJ's just saying to John there as well, he's disappointed it's 30k instead of epic 40k. He'll be sitting out until they do some proper epic. I guess that just means that they keep it like marine focused, does it? Tony saying, watched, liked and subbed, what a little superstar. Yeah, he's a little I'd be fair to him as well, is the personality you see on camera is his personality as well. He has got bags of energy, he is full of beans and stuff like that. And yes, he's watched a few YouTubers and he's got a few of the like hey guys kind of thing going on, but it's not really like a fake. What I didn't want him to do is kind of like try and be a YouTuber kind of thing. But I think once he gets over his initial kind of couple of seconds of it, that's just him kind of like enjoying himself kind of thing. So that's quite nice. Jez is saying there, are you training to edit your videos? I think, to be honest, mate, I think it'll be me editing his videos, and it'll be me working for him more the other way around. Cleo says, wow, I'll go count how many vids I've done to double check. Let's see. Yep, one. And Alan says, let's get him some subs then. Good on him. Thanks, mate. And Thumbnail says, well, your son's got more subscribers than I've got. To be fair to him, he's got me kind of pimping him out a little bit. So there you go. Jess says, pop his link in the Discord or something. That's ace. Yeah, thank you very much, mate. I tell you what I will do. I'll put a link. I'll put a link to his channel in the chat here, so we can give him a little nudge if anybody's wanting to help. Because if he woke up with it, well, he will now. If he wakes up with a load more subscribers, he's going to be absolutely made up. So there we go. And if I go to there, all right, there you go. Scott Barnett. Thank you very, very much, mate. I really do appreciate it. This was not a kind of a pitch for more stuff, by the way. I apologise if anybody thinks that that's what it was. I've said before, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I don't really like to talk about it and things like that. But yeah, it is what pays the bills, as I said. John says he's found the thumbs up. Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, everyone's saying this sub. Thank you very much, folks. He will absolutely love it. Tony saying he's done his bit as well. I hope you get the wee one gets his 50 subs, yeah. And John saying you must be proud of your boy. I know, Obi. Do you know what it is, mate? I am really proud of him, and I've told him this as well. But also because he's been doing really, really well at school as well this last year. We just had his school report. He's absolutely flying. He's doing really well at school. he had to stand up and give a speech at school last week. I mean, like I say, he's only 6. He's in year 1. He's in his first year of school. And he had to stand up and give a speech because he'd been nominated. So he goes to a school called Backworth. So they do this thing called Board of Backworth, where there's a representative for each like year group, like a student representative for each year group, and they basically have a meeting once every so often. And like they can help vote on things like that affect the school and affect the children in the school. And he was nominated as one of 3 people to then go forward to a vote where everybody in the year group would vote for who they wanted to be their representative on this Board of Backworth kind of thing. So he came home and he wrote himself a speech about what he wanted to say the next day. And had to stand up and kind of really speech out about why he thought he should be like sort of not voted for this Board of Backworth, why he should be the one. And he was really nervous about it, but he went and done it. And I said, how did you do? And he went, I think I did okay. Like I don't know if people voted for me. He says it was all anonymous. They had to write people's names down and put them in a box and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I wonder, like, is it just a popularity contest kind of thing at that age? Like, I hope he does okay. And he came in from school tonight and said that he'd been voted in, so he's the representative for the year group. So I'm so proud of him at the minute. He's had a really fantastic like first year at school. He seems to be enjoying it. He's doing really well. And then all of this kind of like YouTube stuff and things like that, he's sticking at it. He's kind of showing commitment as well, which is kind of like what I want to kind of, if nothing else comes out of it, just the fact that he starts something and sticks at it for a period of time. That's all I really want to do. Like, so yeah, and it's just giving him a little nudge in like things like subscribers, just gives him a little bit of like support to stick at it as well. So I appreciate everybody's help. Yeah, clearly we're seeing that sound effect. Yeah. Paul says, I joined Patreon and YouTube. While it means I don't get a mug, it helps diversify your revenue streams. I do get the cool gold badge though. I quite like the gold badges as well, mate. I'll be honest. Tasty Brain Drain says, wow, he drew that. That's impressive. I mean, we got the stuff from like the internet and stuff, like the images and things like that. But he drew it all out. I was looking to see if his book was in here, actually. He drew out on a piece of paper what he wanted it to look like, and then we put the images into the thing. He did really, really good. VJ saying, yeah, just put it on the TV. Declan's watching it now. Yeah, he's just like, he's loving playing the game as well, to be fair. John says, I still love painting those ancient Rogue Trader and 2nd edition metal models. Though tens of thousands of copies were cast, they are all unique to me. That's it, mate, yeah. Cleo says, so winding back because I was totally distracted. Is it not effective enough to do super chat? Does YouTube take too big a bite? No, it's not. It's not like super chats are a bit different, mate. Super chats, YouTube still takes a small percentage, but then by the same stretch, if you donated through, let's say, PayPal, you know, like through like a PayPal donation, there's a fee when I come to kind of take the money out as well. If you did a one-off subscription for 1 month through what's it called, through Patreon, there's still a fee in that as well. The difference with Super Chat, I would suggest, is that, and this sounds a little bit cynical, but it's not meant to be. When one person does it, it notifies other people that it's available to do it. It's one of the reasons why the notifications come up for things like Patreon as well. It's like it's a way of kind of saying thank you to you, so that I see it come in and I get the opportunity to thank you for doing it. It's a way for you to get your name up on screen and stuff like that. And it's just I guess it's just a way I can, like, by seeing them come in like that, I get the opportunity to thank you publicly as well, rather than like just maybe sending a message or something and things like that. So yeah, that's all it is really. It's still worth doing it, mate. Like Paul said before, it diversifies the income and stuff. It helps with things like especially smaller streamers and smaller YouTubers. The way you get paid by YouTube is once your ad revenue for the month adds up to, and I think it's only about £20 or something like that, they will then pay you. But if you don't If you don't meet that threshold, they will hold on to that money until the next month. So if you are not getting a lot of views as a YouTuber, that money can basically hang on, like, so basically until for a few months. And things like these kind of donations help with that kind of stuff, taking you over the top on things. So yeah, they're all appreciated. Clyde Dashin, thank you very much there, mate. He said, oh my god, my name's on the screen. Look, Tony, I made it. Yeah, thank you very much, mate. I do appreciate that. Where are we up to here? Thumbnails are saying, okay, so to the kid and Patreon the dad. Thank you, mate. Alan Stewart saying, stop saying that, man. You deserve a spot. I never ever feel comfortable with that kind of stuff, mate. It's one thing me charging somebody for doing work for them, but I'm always a bit weird when it comes to kind of talking money and stuff like that. Cleo as well, thank you very much, buddy. Says, oh well, in that case, everybody see me. Also something to add to the snacks fund for when you and Geeky Gamer JJ are doing edits. Thank you very, very much, mate. I appreciate it. And VJ says, not something it's on a tick box on YouTube upload, but I couldn't find Jack was on Kids Tube. Had to use regular YouTube. Might be something to look at. Yeah, I think it's not. If you set it that it's made for kids, it stops a lot of the stuff in the background that you can't access. Like, he's not allowed to have any comments if it's made for kids and that kind of stuff. You can't put the little subscribe button on the end of the video. So I basically didn't put it down that it was just made for kids. It's just on, like, it's classed as family friendly basically, rather than made for kids kind of thing. Let's have a little look here. Thumbnail saying he wasn't expecting the call out in the video. But you got the little guy playing his guitar rocking, didn't you? How could you not? Thank you for those that have been subscribing as well. James says, oh no, everyone is joining my Patreon. It feels uncomfortable, mate. Big Dave's off the bed. See you later, mate. Don't forget, for those that are just leaving as well, I am going away on Thursday. I'm away for a couple of weeks. So there's going to be no live streams for the next 2 weeks. But I will be back on, I think it is, let's have a little look here and see what day it is. I will be back streaming again on 1 week, 2 weeks. Let's have a look. I can't remember now. 1 week, 2 weeks. I'll be back streaming on August the 7th. So yeah, August the 7th will be the next live stream. Andrew Fairbanks says, what's the painting challenge this month? It is fantastic fantasy, mate. So any kind of fantasy miniatures, or to be fair, even sci-fi stuff. If you're painting some sci-fi stuff, mate, it's not real. It's still made up fantasy, isn't it? So there you go. So whatever you fancy, but fantasy is the one this month. Jess is saying, what a belter, good lad. Yeah, Colin Max is someone who stands for election. Well done. Yeah, to be fair to him, it was the fact he came home and decided he wanted to write a bit of a speech. I think the other kids basically just kind of stood up and just said, like, vote for me. I want to do it, or I'll be good, kind of thing, or something. He really put some thought into it and really wanted to kind of try and sort of do his best. I think he obviously sees his mum, like, writing presentations and stuff for her job, and he sees me writing scripts and kind of presenting and stuff like that online. And I think he obviously just decided he wanted a bit of that as well. Cleo says, encouraging kids to follow through means so much. It really must be a good thing for him in the long run. Yeah, I mean, to be fair to him, he's a pretty patient kid. He's still quite young, and obviously if he does this for a couple of months and he's had enough of it, because he was asking me on Saturday, can you give me 5 tips that you would give somebody starting YouTube? And I said, look, the biggest tip is only do it if it's fun. If it's not fun, just stop doing it. Like, I'll never force you to do something you don't want to do, kind of thing. I said, so just if you don't enjoy it, just stop. But he's been making videos on his iPad, basically just putting his iPad on the table and videoing him. Like, he puts the iPad facing the screen when he's playing his video games, and then, like, talks over the top of them and stuff. So when he was saying, like, he wanted to do it, like, properly and stuff, I thought, oh, like, you know, I'll kind of let him use my stuff. And what was funny was, so he recorded his first video on Friday. I think it was Friday afternoon. I think it was a Friday night. And then he came and he said, all right, Dad, I'm finished making my video. Will you turn everything off now? I thought it was Thursday he made his first video, sorry. And so we shut the computer down. Friday I come to do some work and I went to turn the computer on and the computer would not turn on. And it was like, oh no, what's going on here? So I had to pull all the computer out and stuff like that, start fault finding on it and things. And it turned out my power supply had basically gone pop. And I was like, oh no, this is an absolute nightmare. This and he was thinking that he'd broke my computer. And I was saying, no, it's not you, son. It's just one of them things. Sometimes these things happen. It's not you. It's just the power supply's broken kind of thing. I need to fix it. And he was thinking he'd broke it doing his YouTube channel. Luckily, I had an old PC that was one of my older sons in the garage kind of thing, and I managed to rob the power supply out of it and put it into my computer and get it up and running again. But I did have visions of like having to spend a few grand on a new PC. I was thinking, oh no, because I had to buy a decent PC a while ago, because when I'm like running four or five cameras through it, when I'm doing the kind of the gameplay type videos and stuff like that, or the interviews and things, I'm running multiple cameras through it. It needs to be a decent PC kind of thing. So I had visions of this thing and it's gone pop. It's going to be a nightmare. Yeah, Tony says, yeah, public speaking is something I can't do. Even failed at a basic thank you for my wedding. I tell you what, mate, it's something that I never ever used to feel comfortable with when I first started having to do it for work and things. And it is something that the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. It's a bit like this, just me sitting talking to a camera. Like, it felt really uncomfortable the first few times I did it when I first started doing live streams and things. And it's different when you're filming yourself, because one, you can edit it, so you can get rid of all the mistakes and things like that. And also, you can do it 2 or 3 times and try it again if you're not happy with it. But when you live stream and whatever you say is out there for eternity kind of thing for the people watching. So there's a bit of pressure to it, and I still get a bit nervous from time to time when I'm live streaming. But yeah, it does get easier over time, and that's what I was trying to tell the little one as well. Basically, like, the more you speak to people, whether it's on camera for YouTube or whether it's kind of talking to people in the class or having to stand up and like in front of the kids at assembly and things like that, like, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. John saying, I'm a proud father as well. My daughter's being accepted to a local college for their 4-year program in illustration. Going to live the dream I squandered. That's awesome, mate. It's really nice as well to see kids like following their dreams kind of thing as well. VG said, not true. Oh, that was just talked about that before. Paul says, so when are you doing a collaboration with Geeky Gamer JJ? He did ask me if he could be on my live stream sometime, and I said, during the 6 weeks holidays when you don't have to get up early for school, I might let you kind of come on the first 5 minutes and kind of say hello to people. So when I get back off my jollies, we might actually you might see him during those 6 weeks holidays. Right. Make an appearance. John Shepherd, thank you very, very much for joining the Patreon there, mate, as well. For those that are joining the Patreon, make sure that you look in the Patreon as well. There's a link to the Discord. So there's a Discord group for YouTube members and for Patreon members. It's a private Discord only for those folks that kind of support me through those things, and it's just another way of kind of saying thank you, and it's an opportunity for all those folks that support me to kind of chat Monday to Sunday outside of the Patreon, outside of the live streams and stuff, and just kind of hang out and chat and stuff as well. Tony says, wish I could super chat or donate. With when my old card expired, took an age to get anything updated, but still can't get my YouTube account to sync up. That's sometimes a bit weird, mate. I know those kind of things, to be fair. Yeah, VJ saying that makes sense. Yeah, thanks, mate. Mordecai saying, enjoy your holiday. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, it's a good job I've got a wife with a proper job. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going on any holidays, that's for sure. Andrew saying, yeah, I remember a girl with a prosthetic leg on YouTube complaining about losing the kids tag, supposedly because of her condition. She dropped the S-bomb shortly into the video. Yeah, that'll be why, mate. Yeah, I think it's weird that you can certainly do stuff that is, there's a box which basically says this is designed for kids, this is not designed for kids. And if you say it's not designed for kids, it doesn't mean it's like adult only stuff. It just means that it's classed as like family friendly as well as like not just, because I think once you target stuff at kids, they become really strict about what what you can and can't do and what you can and can't say and all that kind of stuff, because it's obviously rightly so as well. It's targeted at kids, so it's not like the little lad's going to be swearing or anything like that. But it's more just the fact that it's quite restrictive. It's very, very like a narrow band kind of thing. Not that I'm trying to like pimp him out there to get big kind of thing, but just it's nice. I or his family can't even comment on his video if it's made for kids, to like say like well done Jackson kind of thing or something like that. Jess says, give me a shout when you're back, Andy, if you need any painting company that would spur me on too. I've been clearing both the benches in my room, so I've got some space. I absolutely will, mate. When I'm back on the Monday, I'll be doing the live stream. On the Tuesday, I go into hospital and I'm having an operation, so that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm kind of I'll be fine. I'll still be working and stuff, but I think my recovery's not going to be the best, to be fair. So I think I'm going to be like kind of sitting around at home and stuff like that as well for a week or so, just while I kind of recover from that. So yeah, I'll definitely be. I won't be venturing too far, to be fair, mate. So yeah, it's a good job you're not far away. Yeah, Jez is saying, bless him, that's a good lesson too. Technology will always let you down when you really need it. Yeah, he absolutely, I mean, he really thought that he'd done something wrong kind of thing, and he wanted to help me fix it. And I went, honestly, it's not your fault. It's just one of those things. VG says, great to see kids creating content for kids, better than grown adults over emoting playing games for 8-year-olds. I 100% agree with that, mate, to be fair. Tizzy Brain Drain saying that works, because as much as I would like to start on my Conquest stuff, I've got more stuff for Legion, and I kind of want to get that pile smaller. Yeah, to be honest, mate, like these painting challenges every month are just trying to give people a bit of a nudge. It's nice to have a theme, but at the end of the day, all it is really I'm just showing off kind of community painting and stuff like that. It's nice to kind of involve people and get their stuff up on the channel and that as well. VG saying, I really love being on the live stream. Yeah, it was a little stressful and nervy. I'm sure Andy noticed me sweating bullets, but hey, it was still fun. You can probably I'm still sweating bullets, mate. It gets hot with all these lights and stuff. Blizzard saying, great stream, Andy. Have a great holiday. We'll see you when you're back. Thank you very much, mate. James says, if you say that it's targeted at kids, it appears on the YouTube Kids app. My lad would definitely enjoy it. Also, please let Jackson play Trombone Champ on a video. I'll have to find out what that is, mate, to be fair. Gary says, don't forget Andy's scars are sexy. That's what they say, mate. Claire says, it'd be hilarious if your son interviews Ronnie Renton. He might do a better job than me, mate. I dare not do it. Tony says, I was forced to do a presentation. I had an anxiety attack. The medics jumped in as my blood pressure had dangerous spike. The joys of being a lifelong disorder as opposed to a situation anxiety. I tell you what, mate, I think I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like for you, mate. I mean, I've been in situations where I've felt anxious and I've felt a bit overwhelmed and stuff like that, and it's quite stressful. But I can't even begin to imagine how it must feel for yourself, mate. You have my support, mate, and my sympathy. Tizzy Brain Drain saying, though Star Wars kind of counts as it's space fantasy. I think everything's fantasy, isn't it, really? If it's made up, like I guess the historicals, maybe you couldn't say they were fantasy, but even sci-fi is based upon a fantasy of what could be, or like, do you know what I mean, isn't it? VJ says, Ronnie and Jack will probably have the same level of energy. Yeah, that might actually be a bit of a time bomb waiting to go off, that one, to be fair. So yeah, are folks still wanting to go on? Have you still got plenty to chat about? I mean, I feel like the starter set conversation ran its course and stuff like that. I think it was nice to have a bit of a chat about stuff like that, but I think it's kind of ran its course. But I'm happy to stay on and chat a bit longer and natter for a bit. I've still got water left, so we can keep going if folks want to do it. Mark saying historical fantasy. Sure, I've got short models around here somewhere. Well, there is that kind of thing. Paul saying, I'm doing historicals for fantastic fantasy, sort of. Yeah, the stuff that you're doing, mate, it definitely still counts. But yeah, I guess you could kind of say they're still historicals. Just as saying, all good here. he's happy to keep going as well. I'm always happy to kind of keep chatting on these live streams, but sometimes, like, you do feel the pressure to constantly come up with new things to talk about. Obviously, that's the whole point. And there is times I rely upon the chat to to give me a little bit of a like, oh, that's a good idea, I'll talk about that kind of thing. So feel free, folks, if you've got anything you want to chat about, any ideas you want to throw in, it just gives me stuff to chat about while we're going. I've also got an ulcer in my mouth because I bit my lip yesterday, and it's really sore. So if I start doing this, you know what it is. Just to see that all fiction is fantasy. There you go, mate. Tizzy Brain Drain says still stuck at work for a little while longer. So yep, continuing the stream would be cool. That's all right, mate. And VJ saying I could waffle a little longer. Yeah, I'm all right waffling as well. Mordecai says any new thoughts on miniature agnostic games? So, excuse me. Miniature agnostic games. Do you know what? I think I'm starting to mellow on. Oh, excuse me. It's because I had some water. I felt like it went down the wrong way. I'm starting to mellow a bit, I think, on miniature agnostic games. I'm certainly start to open my eyes to them a bit more. Like, I've never been against them as such. Like, I've never thought miniature agnostic games were a bad idea or anything like that. My opinion before was that a lot of people who, this is generalizing, so when I say a lot of people who've spoken to me about miniature agnostic games have come at them from the point of screw the big guys, I'm using what I want kind of thing. Miniature agnostic games are a great way to to use the minis I want kind of thing, and not support the big guys. And that's how it was sold to me in the past. And my sort of opinion on that has always been, well, any game's miniature agnostic. Like, if you want to play a Warhammer 40,000 with Mantic's Firefight miniatures, you can absolutely do that. If you want to play a Firefight with one-page rules, 3D printed miniatures, you can absolutely do that. If you want to play Malifaux with cardboard standees, you can do that as well. So any game, regardless of whether it was designed as a miniature agnostic game or it was just a game where you can get your hands on the rules, any game's miniature agnostic. So that was always like kind of the my thoughts on miniature agnostic games. The downsides to them, and one of the reasons I didn't play them, was the fact that it's hard to find people to play kind of lesser known games with. I would even word it, it's hard enough to play, it's hard enough to find people to play games that are not Games Workshop with, let alone find somebody that wants to play this really obscure miniature agnostic game that they then have to go and find some miniatures for. So it was more about the practicalities of actually finding somebody to play with. I don't have a regular gaming partner or anything like that. I tend to play against people who play the games I play, kind of thing. So those were the kind of stumbling blocks. But over time, I've kind of mellowed a little bit on it. I think the rise of 3D printing has really, really given miniature agnostic games kind of almost a second wind and a new lease of life. People can now sort of 3D print the miniatures that they really want to play those miniature agnostic games with, as opposed to feel that they are sort of just digging stuff out of a pile. And also there's so many miniature games out there now that people have a much wider range of miniatures now as well. So I think I'm ready to start dipping my toe in with some miniature agnostic stuff in the future. So yeah, who knows, mate? Who knows? Vijay says, did I miss any update on that interview with the Mantic sculptor? No, as I mentioned before, mate, I it's completely skipped my mind. It's been on the back burner with all those, obviously with things like getting ready for holiday and my operation and stuff coming up. I've kind of my mind's been all over the place. I forgot to even contact Luigi about it, mate, but I will get in touch with him. Bliss says, yeah, sure, I've managed to get a bit done. These gobos, nice one. Cleo saying, I'm painting in the background, just enjoying the sounds and the commentary. I'm glad to help, mate. Cleo says, could go on indefinitely is what I meant to say. Jess says, what are you painting, Cleo? Tony says, I want to see the Jackson interviews when he's a little older but still young enough to be unfiltered. They'd be brilliant, and I'm good here. Got nowhere to go. A nice one, mate. Paul says, once your miniature collection gets to a certain size, miniature agnostic games start to look quite attractive. You want to play another game, but you don't want to buy loads more models. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, for me, the up until this point when I seem to have gone on a bit of a painting hiatus for some reason, for no other reason than I just think I've kind of just got out of practice with it really, and it's quite difficult exercising those muscles again and getting into the routine again. But for me, the painting and the collecting and the kind of like that side of things is always going to be the stuff I do more of, even though I would like to game more than I do. And I think the problem is I don't game enough to start sort of gaming the more obscure stuff. I don't even play the games that I want to play. Do you know what I mean? So, but I wouldn't disagree with what you said. Absolutely. Jess says, I sometimes use GW minis in mini agnostic games. I want minis that suit the aesthetic in my head, never mind the source. I would agree with that as well, mate. I mean, there's plenty of games out there where I think sometimes even the minis don't suit the game that they were designed for. Kodos says, lately came along with people who told me that miniature agnostic are only games that where the company explicitly say you can use whatever models you want. Yeah, see, this is what I mean. I think what happens is people like to put things into buckets, and people like to kind of have nice little safe compartments that they can talk about stuff. Like Games Workshop's games, Warhammer 40,000 is a miniature agnostic game because there is nothing stopping you playing with whatever models you want. Now I will prefix that with depending upon who you're playing and depending upon where you're playing. If you're playing against your gaming buddy and you only ever play against him and you play in your garage once every month or something like that, and you want to 3D print an army, then for you, Warhammer 40,000 is a miniature agnostic game. You're using whatever miniatures you want because you've agreed between both of you that that's absolutely fine. If you want to go to Warhammer World and play in a tournament, then maybe it's not. So when I say every game is miniature agnostic, what I mean is there's no like miniature police that can come along and say that's illegal, you can't use those miniatures. There might be tournaments, there might be events, there might be locations where there might even be people that you play against who are not happy with you using those kind of things. However, technically, you can use what you want. Now, that said, there are some games that don't have a miniatures line attached to them that are specifically marketed as miniature agnostic, and you can use whatever you want. Like in theory, we talk about one-page rules. Like one-page rules is kind of marketed as miniature agnostic, but because this same way you can use your 40k armies to play it and stuff like that. But now One Page Rules has pretty much become an STL subscription service, and they want you to subscribe to them and use their models. So even that's moving a little bit away from the miniature agnostic thing a little bit. So let's have a little look down here. Clyde saying, right, JJ is interviewing Luigi. But you see, I'm lucky to have a gaming buddy who will literally play anything I throw at him as long as I teach him the rules and everything to go with it. Yeah, I'd quite like that, mate. I think I'd quite like a sort of a gaming partner, somebody that I set up a regular sort of game with and I play with the same person kind of thing, just to play all the different manner of things that I play. It's not that I don't want to do that. I just generally there's nobody kind of nobody that I know. I don't really have any kind of like close friends that we game on a regular basis. Haxan saying Star Breach and Space Heroes are great games and Reign in Hell. Haven't tried Space Station Zero or Majestic 13 yet, but have the rule books. James is saying people act like Games Workshop is watching them whenever they touch a model. Yeah, it's a weird one, mate. I think it's almost like it's a community-driven thing as well, because I think it's almost become self-policing. It's not even Games Workshop that's kind of hanging the sword of Damocles over people's heads to use their models. It's almost like the community like sort of self-polices itself and says, mind you can't use proxies, you can't use anybody else's models. So it's almost it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy for people when it comes to GW stuff. Paul's saying technically you can play any game with any miniatures, but you have to be careful because if a game doesn't say you can do, then you should expect a visit from the miniatures police. We'll be talking about that. I think it's more a case of you will always find somebody that will complain, because you get some people and this is a minority of people, but you will get some people who will say, I spent $2,000 on my army. Why should you be able to use a 3D printed one that you've spent £100 on? And that's just people being a bit bitter and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's your hobby. Like, you're playing games, unless you're playing in fancy tournaments, unless you're playing like sort of at a GW store or something like that, or if you're playing at a gaming store where the guy that runs or the girl that runs the gaming store says no 3D printed models in here, I only want you playing with the stuff that I sell, then you might have some kind of problems and stuff like that. But generally, you play with what you want, mate. VG is saying, yeah, replace GW with cops, and you've described the mindset of a lot of people in society these days. Clyde saying, I live in eternal fear of the miniature police. I think they know where I live. The problem is with miniature police is they're really, really small and you can't see them. You can't see them coming, so they sneak up on you, and then they kind of wag their fingers and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you do. We are talking about police that are really small, like miniature police, aren't we? Not the miniature police. Jez is saying, my Kings of War Goblin army has Mantic core, but the rest is from loads of other makers. I want my army to be mine. That's the key bit, mate. It's your army. You do what the hell you want. Mordecai says, Rando's getting pissy that I had the audacity to proxy plasma guns on my god because they came with grenade launchers in the box was a big reason I got into the Agnostics in the first place. I can imagine that, mate, to be fair. Tony saying, pick a Moonstone mini that you really like and I want to see in colour. Screw gaming, colour schemes, etc. Just pick one as a mini-gasm to enjoy painting when you're stuck. You know what, mate? It's funny you say that, because what have I been building this week for that exact thing is Moonstone minis, mate. It's exactly what I've been doing this week for that exact reason, to give me a little bit of a refresher. Mark says, I have some miniature police. I use them in a couple of miniature agnostic games. VG says, need to find a way to teleport Andy from Newcastle to Wollongong for a games. That would be nice, mate. If I could just kind of like, in the transporter and get there, that would be nice. And Paul saying, James, you mean they aren't watching you? I heard if you use the GW app, it accesses your camera, and if it sees any non-GW models, it reports you to the authorities. I don't even think it reports anymore now, mate. I think camera phones have got so good they can actually fire lasers through the lens and they actually melt down your models. Mordecai saying he loves Space Weirdos and Rain in Hell. He's used Rain in Hell to introduce a few people to tabletop war games and they've all enjoyed it. Yeah, and Paul says it sends a cease and desist. Vijay says, you said you're off on Wednesday, so no time for TDS. I'm actually Thursday night I go, mate. Thursday I go away. Clyde saying, oh geez, they could be in my walls. if you I tell you what, if we sit in silence, if anybody can hear any scratching, that's what it is. It's the miniature police. Haxan said, I have a lot of 40k models that I've bought over the years because I like them and have no idea what they are according to GW. Vizza saying, I've always been ACAB. Now I can add AMCAB to that too. ACAB. Oh, I don't even know what that means. Blizzard is saying, yes, the miniature police are the only thing sneakier than the phone police. They're a bit like the Spanish Inquisition as well. Nobody expects them. Tony says, I had this conversation on the Paint and Phase Discord last night. Had a guy who was terrified to paint a mini a different way. It's really, really funny, mate, isn't it? Like this is one of, you know what it is? Games Workshop. I absolutely love what they have done in creating a way into the hobby and making it very visible to get people into it, and then it allows them to then see what else is out there, and then people get to choose the thing that's for them. Some people choose to stay with Games Workshop stuff, some people choose to expand out and find other games. Both are correct. However, the one downside about the Games Workshop stuff is the community can be quite insular and put pressure on people to do things a certain way, to paint things a certain way, paint things a certain colour, game at a certain point size, play by certain rules, and it makes it quite. I would say it can make it quite sort of hard for people to get past that first level of, I've bought some models, I've painted some models, now what do I do kind of thing. And it is a shame, because there's so many people in that Warhammer community. It can sound like a lot of noise and a lot of conflicting opinions, and a lot of, like, you know what they say about the squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing. That's sometimes what happens. Is it's the noisy ones that get the attention. And unfortunately, if you're just being quite sort of like if you're saying you paint it how you want, it's your army, you do what you want, sometimes that gets drowned out a bit. Let's have a little look. Tizzy Brendan saying, wear a hat made out of tin foil, that'll block any signals from the Menace police. And Jez says, Games Workshop lasered my dog. Maybe that could be my next video. That'll get a few. Never mind, Games Workshop killed my channel. Games Workshop lasered my dog. Tizzy Brendan says, that's what the scratching is. The whole time I thought it was my cat. Polyman says, I think the miniature police will be sending me to the painting gulag if they find out what's in my attic. Oh, John saying, oh, ACAB means all covers bastards. I didn't know that, mate. Alan Stewart says, I do like a proxy in a weird thing from time to time. Lego Harry Potter was a Stormcast wizard for a while. A suggestion from my lad. See, I like that. I like that, mate. And Tony saying, is that your Discord? Oh yeah, he's talking about that. And Jez Hunt says, stop having fun wrong. Yeah, stop enjoying yourself any way that's not the way that I do it. And thumbnail says, gotta run, take care, buddy. Gary says, Sting is quite tiny. Suddenly every breath you take is very personal. I don't know if anybody listens to the Athletico Mince podcast with Bob Mortimer on it, but he does a thing called what's it called again? Geordie. Oh, what's it called? Is it called the Geordie Files or something like that? And it's basically like Tyneside police type thing. And he does this kind of impersonation of Sting, as if Sting's this like tiny little man who lives up in a castle kind of thing, and he's got the big house, and he's always ringing the police because something's gone wrong. As soon as you said about Sting being tiny, that was exactly what kind of popped into my head. Clyde saying, friendly little gaming store finally got Moonstone, so we'll have to nab one of them, relax, then press gang it into Kings of War Army. My new friendly local gaming store, which has only been open a few weeks now, had an introduction to Moonstone session on Sunday, which I couldn't go to actually, but it was nice that they're starting to do it as well. They're starting to stock Moonstone stuff. Super Punkin Man says, I just like painting and kit bash the way I want to, and to hell with people who say otherwise. Here, mate, here. Alan says, love that podcast, haven't listened to it in ages. Yeah, I don't think they do. I don't think they're as kind of regular now as they used to be in their releases. But yeah, I must admit, there's many times I've been lying in bed with my earphones in, kind of chuckling away at myself, and my missus has been like, what the hell you like, what you're laughing at? Like, the two of us are trying to go to sleep, and I always like to kind of sort of have like music or a podcast, or like have some kind of noise. I sleep better with noise. I'm not good with sleeping in silence. So I always have a podcast on or something like that. And yeah, I quite often used to listen to that and just be sitting like kind of like laughing away in bed. Vijay saying, got to go and get the little guy ready for school. Time for me to split. We'll listen in for the rest of the stream later all. Thank you very much, mate. I'll catch you later. And I'll chat to you by Discord, mate, anyway. Tony saying, God, yeah, give me a moment. Oh, he's just talking about that stuff. Duncan Garcia, hello, mate. He says, the only time I worry about certain paint schemes is when it matters. Star Wars, bolt action, and so on. But does it matter, though? That's the question. Does it matter? Because at the end of the day, does it really matter? Like, I get it. If it matters to you, then that's fine. But at the end of the day, they're your models. You really could paint them any colour you want. I mean, I'm sure if you had a British Army, for example, for bolt action, and you painted them all in pink uniforms, you'll get some flack for it. But at the end of the day, it is your army, and you can do what you want with it. James is saying banned. Cordis is saying, getting late here. Good night, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to be wrapping it up soon anyway, mate. And Duncan saying, yeah, if you want to be accurate, and of course, it only matters to me. If it matters to you, then it matters, mate. That's the difference. So when you say it doesn't really matter, yes, it matters to you. Anyway, folks, I think... Alan saying it was the Nut Job song that got me. Right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there because I'm starting to dry up a little bit on my throat. So, take care, folks. Remember, no live stream for the next couple of weeks. I will be back on whatever date I said it was, the 7th of August, and we'll have a welcome back live stream. James, my banned comment was me correcting a typo. That will explain why, mate. So yes, I'm away for a couple of weeks. I actually also won't have a lot of access to internet or anything like that as well while I'm away, so I'll probably have a proper break rather than a bit of a working break like I've done in the past. So I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Take care. Get painting with your stuff. When we come back as well, don't forget that's the deadline for the painting challenge for that month as well. So make sure you email in all of your painting submissions ready for when I come back, and I will see you all. I'm just reading the last few comments there as well. Thank you very much, everyone. I will see you all when I'm back. Take care, folks. Bye now.